Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome. It's time for the Transatlantic Call-In Show. It's a call-in show where you call us and we take your calls and questions and arguments and all that kind of stuff. So don't forget to get in the queue while you can. I don't know if we have open lines right now because I forgot to open call-in studio, but the number on the screen, 720-619-2288, if you have any questions for us. I'm Luxander Moss, and today I'm joined by Riverboat Jack. How you doing today, Jack?
Hello, everybody. I'm doing great. Relatively. We were just talking about this before the show. Like every day, waking up to new news about awful legislation that the worst people in the world want to pass
Yeah.
to curtail our rights. But you know what? We persist. We find joy, and we keep on moving forward. So I'm doing about as well as I can.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. What is it? Is it what did Elizabeth Warren said? Like nevertheless we persist, something like that. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the vibe we're carrying forward, except I don't really like Elizabeth Warren, but whatever. Anyway. Um yeah, so let's see. Let me open up Call-In Studio and make sure we don't have anybody waiting in the wings right now. And there's the buttons. Okay, we do have somebody calling in right now, but there's lots of lines open. We keep lots of lines open for y'all. We only take maybe like 2 advice calls at once. So if you have advice, especially, you want to get in early because once we fill up those 2 lines, you're going to be turned away by the screener most likely. So if you want to like ask, how do I come out to my parents or whatever, we've only got a couple of spaces for those. But more broadly, listen, if you don't like trans rights, if you think that it's okay to curtail the freedom of trans Americans by limiting our access to healthcare or telling us that we can't change our legal gender marker or that we are not allowed to dress the way that we want to if we're performing. This is like the weird thing about these drag performance restrictions is that it in many ways functionally means that if you are, dressing in the way that's opposite to what your sex assigned at birth was, then, if you are a comedian who just happens to be trans, you could be limited in that way. So it's like people are losing their jobs, right? Teachers in Florida are losing their jobs because of the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida. So if you support the Don't Say Gay bill and you think, well, these people shouldn't be around kids, much less, kids having access to medical transition, even just the issue of trans people being around kids. Listen, we're here for productive conversations. We want to talk to you. We want to lay out all the issues. We want to hear you out and get to the meat of the problem. So make sure you get in the queue, 720-619-2288. Oh, and if you're here to enjoy the show, don't forget to hit the like button. That immediately helps the show. It boosts us in the algorithm, especially early on in the show when we've just started. Makes sure we get out to more people so that we get more interesting calls. So don't forget to do that. And your $5 or more super chats, we will read them at the end of the show. So get those in as well. Um, do we want to talk about the poll from last week?
Let's do it.
Let's do the poll. Should all female athletes be forced to undergo genetic testing to compete in the women's category? I was already here last week and I already got to talk about it. So Jack, I'll give you your moment to cover it.
Oh, no. No, no. Of course not. Like there's a history of doing this in competition that is awful. It's horrendous. It's
Hmm.
invasive. And it comes out of a place fundamentally of an ungrounded fear that we have research now that shows that, like, trans women don't have a competitive edge over cis women. One of the largest meta studies ever done on the topic has shown that pretty definitively, at least in my mind. Um, this is just literal gender policing, and it's crazy. Like, I don't know. Like, I view it as, I don't know, as invasive as like having some kind of policy about, like, well, we can't let you, sir, we can't let you in until we measure your dick size. And like, I don't think cis men would want to deal with that, but they're all too willing to impose it upon women. So, you know,
Yeah, because they're
sucks.
not doing this in the men's category, to my knowledge. Like they're doing this, the Olympic Committee, if y'all have missed the news, after 25 years of maybe 22 years, something like that, over 20 years of allowing trans athletes to participate at the Olympic level. They are now reversing all of their previous decisions on that and are now requiring a genetic test for the SRY gene with female athletes specifically to see if they are actually female, quote unquote. And we stopped doing this at the Olympic level. I can't remember if it was 1992 or 1997, but we stopped doing this in the past because lots of women who had no idea that they had an intersex condition were being disqualified. And like, this is a career ending issue. Like, the Olympics is like the end of your career, as not the end, but like it is the sort of ultimate goal for an athlete. And if you are not able to participate, well, that means that you cannot kind of finally get that last hurdle over your career. And it also means that you might not even succeed in lower sports bodies because now everybody knows that you're intersex. And actually, there was an Aaron in the Morning article about this, where she talked about that, like, people have committed suicide over this before. Yeah, it's under new Olympic sex testing policy, a cis woman who gives birth could be considered male is the article that came out on March 30th. And yeah, I would have to scroll down here and to find the specific example, but there have been suicide attempts and one completed suicide. Pratima Gaunkar died by suicide after her failed sex verification test became public and she was subjected to blackmail attempts. And so, yeah, the testing was finally fully abolished in 1999. So, yay.
Yeah.
Let's go back. I guess make the Olympics great again by causing women to commit suicide, and even women who have given birth could be potentially genetically male under these stupid requirements. So it's kind of evil, I think.
Yeah. Also, if you're in favor of these requirements, I encourage you to call in,
Mhm.
especially if you think you have evidence of some kind of trans woman super soldier who has been dominating the Olympics. And maybe I don't pay that much attention to the Olympics. Maybe I missed it. Maybe I missed in the last 20 years all of the trans women dominating the Olympic Games with their superior muscles and endurance, according to folks who are in favor of mandatory sex testing. So
Mhm.
call in. Well, let's have a little back and forth about it.
Yeah. And we're going to briefly touch on this week's poll, which, if we're doing this the way that we have been doing it, there will be a version of this in the chat for you all to vote on while we are live. But if you want to add any additional commentary, we post this onto our posts section, posts tab of our YouTube channel. So if you want to kind of elaborate at all, have you been avoiding consuming news more or less in the last 6 months than in the months prior? So, yeah, we just want to get kind of a feel for how people are doing with regards to, are you keeping your finger on the pulse for the news? And we will discuss our response to this poll after we take a call or two. So we do have a couple people in the queue. Oh my God, apparently I need to clear my throat now. Great. Okay, that was gross. Um, okay. See, I don't think we have any that are particularly contentious right this moment. So I want
I mean,
to sit on that for a minute and let some
yeah.
more people have an opportunity to call in. Because we're here for the spice, y'all. We're here for the arguments. We're here for the contention. I am happy to provide some amount of support and advice for people who just want support and advice. But the point of the show is that we want to hash out these differences. We want to have these discussions. And as long as you're respectful, we will be respectful. I don't really handle people interrupting with me very well. Like, sorry. I do. I kind of freak out a little tiny bit. But that's the great thing about me having the mute button is that if you interrupt me a bunch, you'll get muted. But if you don't, then we won't. Some people complain. I don't know if you've seen this yet, Jack, because you're relatively new, but people cry about being muted. They're really upset about it, even in the chat, because we don't allow people to argue in the chat. If you want to assert your opinion, we want you to call in. We don't really let you argue in the chat. Someone actually came into my live chat last night on my
Oh, no.
chill, just chatting hangout stream to complain about the Lions policy on this. And I'm like, well, I don't care. Like, you think I
Also,
care?
like, what you're the host of the show. Like, Oh, like if your complaint is, oh no, I called into a show and I tried to talk over the host. I don't know, that's a you problem.
Yeah, truly.
Like I'm happy to meet people's energy and I'm happy to like hear you out, but like at a certain point, sometimes people are just bad at making their points. And they need to like sit down and listen to the response.
Yeah, we have to keep things on track. I have in the past taken a kind of like, sorry, there's an inherent power dynamic approach to this question. But
Yep.
one of our other hosts, Promise, said it in a way that was a little bit nicer, which is that we are keeping the show on the rails. We have to keep the show on track and make sure that, there's clarity on all sides of the argument and make sure that, there's not a lot of crosstalk and everything. So I've been kind of leaning back on that a little bit rather than just being like, sorry, it's my show. Like,
Yeah.
it is true, but it is not like the nicest way to answer that question. So,
No.
we're all doing what we can here. I answered the poll in the chat. If y'all haven't answered the poll in the chat, and if you haven't hit the like button, please hit the like button because we are hoping to get some controversial or oppositional calls today. Pretty much just click the screen as many times as you can. If you click the like button, and if you click the share button, and then when it pops up a little thing, and then you click the little blue link that says copy, I would love it if you did copy paste the link on your social media somewhere, but you don't even have to as far as YouTube is concerned. If you just click copy, that counts as sharing the link out as far as YouTube interactions go. So yeah, pretty much just touch the screen as many times as you can. We appreciate those super chats starting to come in, and we will read those at the end of the show if they're $5 or more. Um, Also, Patreon. This is something that we haven't really been pushing that much, but we are trying to do more with the line. We are expanding. We're doing more. We're gonna be starting new things and adding more to our lineup. And part of that is that we are hoping to eventually have a really hardcore, well done uh, in person convention. We already have online LineCon that we do once a month on our Patreon, where a few of our hosts give a 20-minute talk, and then there's a 1 hour Q&A afterwards. But we would like to do a big in person convention. We want it to challenge and rival the biggest atheist conventions in America, like American Atheist and Freedom from Religion Foundation. We want to try to push this to its extreme and have it be, the best convention party weekend you can possibly imagine. So the best way to make that happen is to support us on Patreon, patreon.com/call the line, where you get your name in the credits and access to LineCon and access to past LineCon videos that are not yet public, and as well as just giving us a little bit of flexibility to do more with the line and keep expanding and growing, especially in an election year where we really want to be pushing our message and make sure that a secular humanist morality is kind of pushing our political candidates realistically. Like, we want to have political candidates who support secular humanist ideals, even if they themselves don't consider themselves secular humanist. But that's kind of what we're heading towards this year as we continue to grow and expand. So check out the Patreon if you haven't already. Yeah, what do we think? We think we want to go ahead and take one of these calls?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Well, do you have a particular preference between either of them?
I'd love to take 5-2.
Okay, cool. All right, so we are going to bring on Dave, he, him pronouns from the Netherlands, has a question about pronouns. Dave, let me see if I can get Colin Studio to work. You are live on the line with Luxander and Riverboat Jack. How's it going?
Very well, thank you, and I hope you're doing well as well.
Yeah,
I hope my audio is okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
pretty good so far.
I think I have a question, especially addressed to Luxander,
Sure.
because I'm a 48-year-old guy trying to get used to the whole pronoun thing, if I can say it like that. Sorry if my English is not my first language, so.
You speak it better than
But I
many people who do have it as their first language. So,
Yeah, that's true.
thank you very much. No, but I saw people identify as a they them, but you identify as a they it. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So why choose the it instead of the them. It's not because I want to make you feel bad or something about it, but just so I know because I'm trying to inform myself.
Sure. So part of my reasoning was that I felt as though the concept of a they was starting to have a lot of implications that I didn't identify with, in the same way that like she and he pronouns had a lot of like associated things that I didn't particularly identify with. So I felt a little bit alienated by that. You know, there's this like image in people's heads now of like, you know, somebody who wears like really weird patterned button down uh shirts with a collar, and they have like a pet rat and like all this stuff that's like, I think stereotypes have started to build around it. So that was part of the reason why I was starting to feel alienated by them. And I thought that its pronouns kind of more directly embodied the fundamental alienation that I was experiencing. I've kind of softened on it a little bit, especially as I'm considering, you know, working in other spaces beyond the advocacy space, you know, trying to fit in a more mainstream type situation. So I've softened on it a little bit. I also like that its pronouns are kind of confronting. Like that's part of why I like to use them, in the same way that people might identify as queer or might self-referentially use slurs, because you're taking the power out of it and it's confrontational. Like its pronouns have a really punk rock feel to me, if that makes any sense. And I think you're kind of the other question that you have, as far as the screening notes, is that could this potentially be damaging to the trans acceptance movement? Is that something that you wanted
No,
to talk about?
no. That has nothing to do with your pronouns.
Sure. No, it's cool,
But
and I'm
I
not
might have
annoyed or
worded it.
anything. I'm just citing what you put in the call screener.
Yeah, but I think I might have put it in because as I said, it's not my first language, so I might
Sure.
have put it in a bit wrong or a bit not misleading, but totally clear. No, but if you see on the YouTube, you have some people, trans people on there, like for example, a Lily Tino. Do you think that people like her are sometimes more damaging to the trans acceptance movement than helping? Because people, if they see someone like her, um, they people think those people are really extreme. So, do you think that might damage the trans acceptance movement or still help it?
Do you know
If you
Lily
understand
Tino,
my
Jack?
question.
I don't. I like vaguely I've heard of this person, but like yeah, I think that I, I don't think that a one person who might be seen as like objectionable or outside the norm damages the overall movement. You know, like I think that in a similar way to like, you know, there are people of all different kinds that act a fool on the internet, and I think that um just one person, maybe even one person with a large platform acting a certain way doesn't discredit all people who share qualities or traits with that person. Does that make sense?
Yes, of course, but I just was just wondering what your view on that was. But if you're not knowledgeable about that person, well, it's hard to have a opinion on it.
I am relatively familiar. I've seen a couple of her videos. Basically, like, I actually don't even understand what is so controversial about her videos, because by and large, like, the overwhelming body of her work, as I understand it, is that she sits down at a restaurant and she films herself, and if she's misgendered by the waiter or by another individual in the establishment, she corrects them. And like,
Yeah.
I kind of don't understand what the problem is. Like, if the problem is like
No,
you shouldn't be correcting people, or is there something that you want to add?
no, that's not. I don't have a problem with it. But if like my parents who are really old-fashioned and
Hmm.
still are having problems with the whole trans movement because they're so old-fashioned, if they see someone like that, they'll because her clothing is quite bold, and she has the big red hair and stuff like that. And my parents will have a certain opinion on that, which I don't share, by the way. But do you how do you say that? People that are in the really in the spotlights with an extreme, um, not it's really difficult because it's not my first language, so sorry about that.
You're fine.
But at least I see where you're coming from. I don't agree either. I think everyone should be who they are and what they want. But
I think
um,
maybe a good parallel to draw here is to like Pride, like parades here in the United States, where there are always going to be people here who are more old-fashioned who look at pride parades and think, "Oh, that's totally unacceptable. Look at those men walking down the street in those leather harnesses. You know, how offensive." And like I just think that ultimately trying to cater the entire movement towards people whose position is, well, those people are gross and icky. I think it's ultimately like a failing strategy. You're constant. You're in effect you're constantly chasing after the validation of people who are already saying we don't validate you. And I
yeah,
don't think I think that there's like a goalpost moving involved there where like even if you did meet some very high standards of behavior, the goalposts would just shift. Because there's something else going on there. It's not just the correction. It's not just like the pronouns. There's a different issue underlying all of that that kind of bolsters the judgment, you know. And I think that we just as a movement, as individual people, can't like make ourselves palatable to everybody. Does that make sense?
yeah, it does. But I don't think that goes for everyone, for anyone, because there are always people that are not going to like you. So I know
Yeah,
what you mean.
yeah.
So,
And
yeah, yeah. Sorry,
yeah.
listen to you.
Oh, I was just gonna add, I think that our time, and this is just a philosophy I have in general, in terms of like shifting people on any given issue, which is that generally speaking, the way I've found that is more successful is just focusing my time and energy on the people who are like already kind of undecided or who are already mostly in agreement, because I find that by shifting those groups of people, that in turn tends to shift the people who are, not as accepting. Does that make sense?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you answered both of my questions um, very clearly. And I really want to thank you for it because I learned again something today. So that's always good. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I really like the show. So I'm going to continue watching. And I hope you might get some good discussions later. Sorry, I wasn't an opposing call as you
Oh
wished for.
no,
But
you are great. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah.
yeah, and I hope to speak again to you in the future.
Yeah. Thanks very much for calling. Have a good night, Dave.
Have a good night. Bye bye.
Bye, Dave.
Bye. Yeah, I struggle a little bit with the Lily Tino thing because I see people in chat who are like, she's annoying. And I'm like, have you not spent any time thinking to yourself, why do I think this woman is annoying? Why do I think this woman is annoying when she is just correcting people on her pronouns? And like, yes, she's doing it to make money. It is her job. But like, I don't know how we're supposed to, like, how do we I do this online. I don't correct people on my pronouns when I'm in public. I don't give a shit, but like I do it online. Does that make it better what I do when I correct people about pronouns online? Does that make it like more socially acceptable in some way versus doing it in person? And like people are like, "Oh, well she dresses." I don't want to talk shit on Dave, but that he said that she dresses in a flamboyant way. And I like opened her Instagram and I'm like, "She doesn't even wear super low cut tops most of the time. Like most of her collars are high. She just dresses like a woman." So I like, when people like our parents, our conservative parents have an issue with this, like I don't know what else we're supposed to do to achieve acceptability. Um besides just like, hey, I'm in public and I'm myself, and if I'm dressed like this and the tits are obvious and you call me sir, I think that's an obvious correction point where we can say, hey, that's not my pronouns, da da da. Um I don't know. I guess I just don't really understand what the problem is.
I mean, I think that for some people, the annoying and irritating factor and is that like there are some trans women who are visibly trans, and like that having somebody who's visibly trans correct on their pronoun usage, like that can come across as almost like an attack on the gender norms that people have like already internalized. It can feel a bit like getting called out yourself when you see it happening to like a third party. And like I think I it's all like gender is bullshit. And I think like really the best way forward is just recognizing that like, hey, let's just respect other people when they tell us who they are, like
Yeah.
uh, it isn't a big deal to correct somebody on pronoun usage. But the internet has a tendency to absolutely throw a fit over over that social interaction.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't think she would have content if it weren't for the fact that people react to that correction.
Hmm.
That like I've seen a video of someone like threatening to beat her up. A woman like threatened to beat her up in a restaurant because she corrected on her pronouns, and so there wouldn't even be content to farm from it, because I know some people are like, you're content farming, whatever, that's the world that we live in. Like, unfortunately, I also don't like that social media has turned our lives into a marketing scheme, but that's the situation. And like, if she were just to simply correct and say, actually, I go by she, her, I'm a ma'am and not a sir, and then there was nothing else that happened, then you're not really going to get clicks and views. So it's the fact that people react negatively to that, which causes like the kind of emotional tension that makes people want to click and makes people want to watch and makes people want to comment and, tell her how obnoxious she's being. Because, yeah, maybe there is some component where people are like, well, what do you expect? You shouldn't correct people because, of course, you look like that. So, what do you expect
Yeah.
people to do? Like, as though we are haughty, like that it's like that we have the gall to correct people. It's so strange. And again, like I do think that we should be conscientious of the manner in which we are critical, specifically of women, and of course going further into that, specifically of Black women and of trans women and any other kind of marginalized intersection of identity there. People are critical of Hillary Clinton in a way that they wouldn't be critical of a male politician, even though she does suck, but not like uniquely more than most of the men that she works with and around and at that same level. So, yeah, I just feel like chill the fuck out. You know what I mean? Like, just
I
chill.
I just have one additional thing to add that occurred to me as you were talking there,
Yeah.
which is that I think that people get so used to, from like really, really early ages, like visually looking at somebody and making a determination about, oh, boy, girl, boy, girl. And I think we're just reaching a point where like some people are like non binary, boy, girl, non binary. And like we're just hitting that point, but also having that voice in your head corrected after being, you know, right 99% of the time comes across as like an attack on your understanding of what it means to be a man, a woman, non-binary, etc. And that attack, I think, is what people react very negatively to, because if you're wrong internally about your determinations of other people, what could that mean you're wrong about when it comes to yourself? So I think I yeah, I don't know. Just a thought I had.
Yeah, that's fair. And I'm slightly distracted because I just remembered I'm supposed to be producing the next show that I'm also going to be co-hosting on. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm like coordinating with Jimmy about what I actually, it's like, oh, we should have done this morning. I just forgot that we were supposed to do this. Cool. So I'm looking to take, well, do we want to do the poll? Let's do the poll real quick first,
Yeah.
actually, to have that kind of discussion. The poll this week, if you all wanted to answer in the chat, you can answer in the chat, or if you want to elaborate your answers on the actual community post, you're welcome to do that. So we wanted to discuss this idea because of all this kind of stuff that's going on in the background, like that we are talking about off stream. Have you been avoiding consuming the news, more or less in the last 6 months than in the months prior? And let me actually see what the answer was on the poll. So a lot of you said about the same. You're consuming the news about the same amount. 40% right now is the number. 35% of you said that you are consuming more news now than you were in the last 6 months, I think is how we're answering this. And then 25% have said you're consuming less news right now than you were 6 months ago. And we wanted to talk about this because, myself and Arden especially have been avoiding the news, trying to at least. And I don't know, Jack, where are you at on this right now?
I mean, I'm consuming more news. This is an unfair question for me, just because I do a show where I talk about the news and politics, and so like that kind of demands that I stay up to date with everything that's going on as best I can. But like it is, I can tell you, if you are feeling overwhelmed, it is not just you. It is much. It is a lot of overwhelming news coming out right now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I totally understand why some people would be consuming less or even far less news in the past 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been consuming less or trying to. Well, okay, it's there's a kind of distinction, I guess, that I should draw between like news versus social media, because I think with social media in particular, it's like the hits keep coming and they don't stop coming, and the endless scroll and the forever scrolling and multiple different platforms. If I finish looking at all the stuff on Instagram, then I jump over to Threads, and then I'm arguing with people on Threads. So I'm trying to do all of that less because I don't need the endless scroll of news. I don't need endless takes on every piece of news. And I don't need to be in an environment where it's really easy for me to end up in active conflict um, over shit that I have no control over. And
Yep.
so what I have done is now I've switched to an RSS feed where I've subscribed to like NPR and Aaron in the Morning and Pink News, which is a UK based, but they often cover American news anyway. So and that also enables me to follow a bunch of arts and creativity blogs and the culture section of the Guardian newspaper or whatever, and so I can just go in and go, I'm gonna knock out like, oh, I followed some architecture blogs and it's like dumb interior design stuff that it's like I can't do. I'm not gonna like renovate my rental right now. But and sometimes they're like, hey, here's some rental friendly things that you could do to make your space more accessible. So I'm like, okay, it's kind of similar to social media in that way, where it's all kind of mixed in, where you get little kitty cat pictures and videos of like horses goofing around, and then something horrible happens. Like I think of the Bo Burnham song about the internet, where it's like, they're really throwing everything at you, one thing after the other. You'll see a recipe, and then a kid got beheaded, and then like, so it's just,
Yep.
yeah, it's really difficult, and that kind of creates an addiction because it's an intermittent reward system, and I think that is, for me personally, quite difficult to get out of. So I'm switching to, a more controlled, and where there's a finite end point. I can get that number down to 0 where there's no new articles for me to read. And so for me, I think it's a little bit more healthy. And when it comes time for us to make a poll, I can go deliberately check on the anti-trans news rather than it affecting me all the time. And this is partially, I used to do what you do, Jack, on my stream, and I would talk about the news and then take the clips and then upload them. And doing that twice a week or more is not tenable for me in a long-term fashion. So I just do, hey, I'm just going to hang out and chill on my streams, and I will deal with the conflict here in this environment. I'll confront the news here. So that for me has created a little bit of a separation that I think is healthy. And I don't know. I think some people are like following the news even more because I don't know, like it's horrifying and you feel like you need a sense of control, and
Yeah.
being informed gives you a little bit of that.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people are desperate for agency.
Mhm.
It's why like a lot of my coverage tends to try to tell people, hey, you can actually have agency in our political system to help kind of unfuck this entire system.
Mhm.
You can actually do things towards that end. We aren't all just subject to the whims of whatever is happening on the news, which is sometimes what it can feel like. And yeah, I think a lot of people who check out are doing so to preserve themselves. You know, like it can feel like an unending deluge, especially if you are getting most of your news through social media. I think what you did was really smart, like getting an RSS feed and just like curating your news intake. I think
Mm.
helps an awful lot because there are always going to be people who are acting like every new thing is the end of the world, and that can get really really scary really fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm trying not to be on that like doomer edge of my seat all the time thing. Like I, I don't know, maybe my brain has been kind of destroyed over the last couple of years, like especially since October 7, but we got the like Trump said he's going to glass Iran, and I was like no response. Like I had no emotional reaction to that whatsoever. And then hey, lo and behold, by the end of the day he was like, "Never mind, 2 week ceasefire." It's like you cannot let what this senile old man says
Yeah,
ruin your day. Like it's just not, it's not tenable. You're not going to be effective if you are overloaded all the time. So I'm not suggesting that people should tap out completely, although sometimes you do need to take a couple weeks break and tap out completely, but rather to focus on things that you have control over, have a measured amount of exposure to the news, and just whatever balance you need to strike where you can continue to take care of yourself in your personal life, and you can apply yourself in whatever ways you can personally help the situation get better, just without overloading yourself and not being functional on a basic level. So that's kind of my pitch on that right now.
absolutely.
With all that, that's our poll for this week. So thank you all for responding in the chat and for posting on the posts page. We appreciate all of that engagement on the channel. It helps us grow and expand. And we've got a couple calls waiting. Do we? I think maybe 9-2. Up to
Yeah,
you
let's do
though.
it. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. We are going to talk to June, they, them pronouns from Massachusetts, who wants to talk to Jack. And you are live on the line with Luxander Moss and Riverboat Jack. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Living the dream.
Do great.
Aren't we all? Um, okay, so Jack had mentioned a few weeks ago that she identified as non-binary for a while, and then had to like basically earn her right to be a trans woman. And I kind of feel like I'm in a similar position. I'm identifying as non-binary now, but I feel like that's a place that I kind of want to be, but don't really feel like I have the right to occupy. And I was wondering, like, how do you make that leap, Jack?
I mean, so to be very clear, I no one needs to earn the label of like trans woman. I was just talking about my subjective experience, like internally with like my gender identity and like trying to figure out exactly what it was. Like, what is this nebulous thing inside of me called gender? Because after I broke down the wall of like realizing I'm not cis, what am I? You know, and so I embarked on a bit of like a journey of self-discovery, and I didn't really know what to call that myself as a gender identity during that period of self-discovery and figuring out, you know, where exactly do I land on this wild and crazy spectrum. And for me, what it took was, you know, sitting with myself, figuring out like what fashion I liked, what I felt comfortable telling people what felt right when I was trying to explain who I am to others, you know? And I think a lot of trans people understand that, like, when you come out when you start coming out to other people, like, you start having a lot of conversations about, like, who you are, what your identity is, etc. And, like, I think through those conversations there is also this element of, like, self-discovery or affirmation in, like, what you can or what you feel comfortable um identifying as. And so, as far as, like, feeling the need to, like, earn it, I would say that in retrospect, that was a pretty, like, outdated idea for me to have, but it was one that I was in the process of unlearning at the time. And so I think eh, I don't know if that starts to answer your question, or if you have any other do you have more clarifying thoughts, anything to, like, ask about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I get the idea that
Mhm.
you don't need to earn it. It just feels like, I don't know, maybe it's the process of me like, because for a long time I felt like a guy, and
Mhm.
I didn't really have a word to say that well, I guess, sorry, I should take that back. I didn't really feel like a guy. I didn't feel like anything in particular. And so, like, the default was that's how I was raised, so that's, how I felt. And so I guess I'm like unlearning that default doesn't mean guy for me.
Mhm.
And it feels like I'm trending towards woman, but it feels like there's something preventing me from actually getting there, even though, like, the fashion and behaviors and everything surrounding it feels correct, but there's still something nebulous that I can't define that's standing between me and womanhood for all intents and purposes.
Can you kind of, like, narrow down, like, where that nebulousness is? Like, what kind of topics are you feeling nebulous about? Is it just calling yourself a trans woman? Is it, like, do you identify with every other aspect of, like, trans womanhood? Or are there elements that you find alien or just not applicable to yourself?
Well, weirdly, it's actually, I think it's mostly like calling myself a woman. Like, all of the
Mm.
other stuff, like I can wear wear the clothes, have the trappings, all that. But, like, actually calling myself a woman, going by she, her instead of they, them, feels like it's a step farther, like it's a step out of a comfort zone. Like, they, them actually feels relatively comfortable, but I'm not sure if that's because I'm not willing to take another step, or if it's because this is actually where I belong. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and, you could also, with friends you trust, with family you trust, you could just tell them straight up, I'm gonna try out using the label of trans woman and see how that feels. I might backtrack on that. But, like, you can absolutely try out different ways of portraying yourself, different ways of describing yourself to others. And I think that that's okay. And, it was something that I had to do too. I was not quite sure if I could identify as a trans woman. And so I uh, was only telling certain people that I trusted, or, um, you know, introducing myself to new people. Like, I tried different names. I tried different, different labels on quite a bit when I was trying to figure myself out. And there's absolutely no wrong way to try and figure out your gender identity. Like, there's no wrong way to be a girl, there's no wrong way to be non-binary. Like, you know, I think you are entitled to figure that out about yourself.
there's nothing to it but to do it. Is I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like you don't know if you yeah, exactly. You don't know if you're going to be comfortable doing it until you try it out. The same way like you don't know if an outfit might necessarily be comfortable until you try it on. Um and who knows? You might find that calling yourself a woman is more comfortable than calling yourself non-binary, or you might find out that you know, uh calling yourself a woman is not in fact, and identifying as a woman is not in fact what you actually want. So either way, I think going for it is going to tell you a lot about what you actually want.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much about what I expected. So that's all I had.
Okay, well, thank you very much for calling in. And if you
All right.
have any future revelation or any other future questions, feel free to call back in.
I will. Thank you very much.
All right, have a
Thanks,
good one, June.
Bye.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, listen. I see there's some people in the chat. I see you in the chat being like, well, you don't have an identity. This is basically religious dualism. Call in.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick.
Sure. We are happy to discuss the issue of like, is someone really trans, or is there, are we basically making a soul argument by saying that we identify as a different gender than the sex we were assigned at birth? And I would be really interested in having that conversation, but you won't call in. Please call in. That's what we're here for. We are here to address those kinds of questions. And particularly, I like the hitting the angle of religion, because The Line fundamentally is a secular humanist organization. We support, atheism. Like most of us are atheist or at least agnostic here on this channel. And here on TACIS specifically, we tackle the trans issue from the skeptical perspective. So we try to bring studies, we try to bring the facts, we try to avoid feelings-based arguments. Now, if somebody is calling in and they want advice on like how to figure out which gender they identify with or whatever, obviously we're going to help people get in tune with their feelings. But as far as validating trans identity in our argumentation, we try to look at the facts, right? So we don't really get the opportunity to talk about religion in particular here as often, since we have more of like grounded scientific arguments about the efficacy of gender treatment, including for young people. So, for those who are under the age of 18, we support trans affirming medical care because that has been proven repeatedly to be beneficial, to be evidence-based practice. So we don't often get to have those kinds of more esoteric religious conversations. So I'm happy to discuss that particular angle if you want to say, trans identity is functionally the same as believing in a soul or religious identity or whatever. We're happy to have that convo. You just have to call in, because we are not going to argue back and forth with you from chat. That's not really what we do here. And if you keep posting those things in the chat, you will get muted, because we don't want debate in our chat. We want people to like, comment on the conversation and have a lighthearted conversation. We are not going for debate in the chat. So I apologize if you are, bummed out by that, but call in and we'd love to have those arguments with you and have those discussions. I'm seeing if there's anything fun in the call-in queue right now. We've got one who's been waiting for a little while. They are looking for advice, and we do have a conversation crossing over with religion. I think that's more of like a spitballing conversation rather than hashing out any particular disagreement. We've got a couple people waiting to be screened. So do we want to take one of these calls, or do we want to shoot the shit for a minute while we wait for some of these people to get screened and see if we have some spice?
Ooh, let me see here. I'm okay with shooting the shit for a minute if you are. I'm also okay taking a call.
Yeah.
Either way, I'm gonna be happy.
It can slow down our momentum somewhat as far as getting more clicks and more views when we take the advice calls. So we do generally try our best to save those toward the end if we can. So I apologize if you end up calling in and you want advice and you wait for a little while. We are trying to make sure we get some good clips from today's show. So that does mean we might want to, wait around a little bit for some of those more contentious calls to come in. So if you are hanging out and you're enjoying the show, don't forget to hit the like button. It helps the show. It's quick, it's easy, it's free. You can also click share and then copy the link, and that will also tell YouTube that it should show this video to more people, get us out on the algorithm. And I've been seeing your super chats come in. We really appreciate those. $5 or more, and we will read them at the end of the show. We also have our little competition that we do.
Oh,
So if you
yeah.
want to, if you want to vote with your super chat, if you get hashtag Team Jack or hashtag Team Lux in there, we will add those to our poll count, and whoever loses that competition has to defend a silly position. We will have the silly positions ready for you to vote on shortly. But for now, just make sure you're keeping in mind. I'm gonna get no hashtag no vote. Also, people don't always know this. If you just say Team Lux and you don't put a hashtag, I'm sorry, but I've lost that vote. It doesn't count. No hashtag no vote.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, we are more flexible though. If you want to vote hashtag Team Mina, Mina is my cat, and we will count that as a vote for me. And I might even go bother her. She's sleeping, and it's so fucking cute right now. Yeah, she's adorable, and I love her, even though we've only had her for like a month and a half. But that's cats, It's so easy to love a cat. They're so cuddly and adorable.
It's
Uh,
true.
Has there been any news that you have seen recently that you think is worth talking about with regards to trans stuff? I was like looking before we started the show, and I was like, wow, it seems like the same thing copy pasted over and over again.
It's the same thing copy pasted over and over again. Like they're just trying to see what works in one state and then copy it into other states, and with varying degrees of success. And I mean, the big one from today was a Republican from Illinois introduced a federal legislation to try and ban any mention of like trans people or gender dysphoria from any materials in schools.
Hmm.
So, including like library books or, counseling materials, anything that would acknowledge that trans people exist is under this legislation deemed as a threat to children. Want to put forward it has not advanced through Congress. So, we'll see if that anything comes of that, because there are Republicans are constantly, wish casting new legislation that will clamp down on trans people, but a lot of it does not wind up getting passed.
Yeah.
But it's still scary to wake up almost every day to something like that.
Yeah, pretty much. Like that is the troubling thing as well, that even if they don't succeed, they are still going to keep trying, right? Like even in Kansas, they passed a law that restricted bathrooms and driver's licenses, but it's been defeated in court, or at least paused in court, excuse me. And then they decided to pass another one, which is the one that's more restrictive and more scary, the one that is currently they're being litigated because the ACLU is suing on behalf of two transgender men. So they even successfully passed their stupid fucking law, but then because there was an injunction or something in the courts, or because there wasn't a particular enforcement mechanism, which was one of the annoying things about the original bill, is like, okay, so you're saying nobody can use this bathroom, but there's nothing in there that says what the infraction is or what the crime would be or whether there's a fine or anything. It just says don't do it. So
That's
yeah,
the
they're
fun
just going to
part.
keep doing it.
You get to find out. It's it's a fun, unique ARG we all get to play together.
Yeah, where it just opens us up to being harassed by law enforcement, or
Yeah.
being kicked out of a public space, told you can't come back to the public gym or the school, or just open questions as to how it's actually supposed to work. But I've also called it shotgunning, where they'll just, there will be like 6 or 7 bills that get introduced in a legislative session in a given state, and they're all slightly different, but all kind of hitting the same notes. And I think that the idea is just like, well, surely one of these will pass. Like, surely we'll squeeze one of them through. And then, yeah, when you get the pushback in the courts, like, oh, well, guess what? We've already got 8 more loaded up for the next legislative session. And the fact that it's the very first thing that gets logged in a legislative session is driving me completely bonkers, right? Like we got back from winter break and the legislative session is starting, and boom, immediately we're logging 5 anti-trans laws targeting 2% of the population in a state, sometimes targeting one individual trans athlete in the whole state, which is crazy. Why are they
Yeah.
spending our tax dollars on this, Jack? Like, this is the thing that's frustrating.
I mean, I have been saying for a while now that essentially it's busy work for Republicans.
Mm.
It's a way for them to look like they are doing something for their Republican base, without actually doing anything material to help them pay for healthcare or housing or earn more money or have rights that are outside of what corporations dictate they have. All the while, like, they could be like, look, we're doing all the anti-trans stuff while, like, pushing the tax burden onto from the richest people in the country onto the poorest people in the country. Like, it's
Mhm.
all a big shell game, and they're scamming Republicans. Like, if you're a Republican right now, you're a sap, and your elected officials, they treat you like that. And the entire anti-trans bonanza. I mean, like, do you really think the number one issue that warrants like hundreds and hundreds of bills, untold hours of legislative time, is that one trans kid is going to be able to play sports in your state? Like, that's the thing you want to send people to your, state legislature to do, to send people to Congress to do? Like, I don't know. They just lit like $100 billion on fire for no reason in Iran, and Republicans just keep going. Well, it's probably a good thing. I don't know. But anyway, those trans people, though, we got to make sure we pass laws. We can't pass laws to prevent 200 billion of your taxpayer dollars from being lit on fire for no reason. But, we can pass legislation and spend untold man hours trying to ban trans kids from sports.
Yeah. Just, yeah, wasting our time. Like, that time belongs to us. The time that is
Mm-hmm.
spent in the legislative session belongs to us. They are supposed to represent us. We pay for their kids to go to college while we can't afford to send our kids to college. It's like, it's not cool. We really need to be focusing on things that actually matter to the everyday American. And, as much as like, I just think that this is a ridiculous issue that has been blown out of proportion, that trans people have been safely using the bathroom that aligns with their gender identity since forever, basically. And there has not been an issue until 2016 when they decided to turn it into a culture war issue. I saw someone in the comments just now who got muted, and we would love to take your call. You went with this whole, like, oh, what did you say? Biology doesn't change just because you say you're a woman. We would love to have that conversation if
Yeah,
you'd like to
please
call in.
call.
Yeah, and the way that this works, by the way, y'all, is if you have a contention like that, you get to the front of the line. So we've got a couple people in our call-in queue, but if you have a contention with us, if you disagree with us, if you want to make a counter argument to any of the things that we've said, you will get to the front of the line if and when you call in. The number is 720-619-2288. And you'll talk to our lovely screener, who is a very nice person, and then you'll talk to us. And if you're nice to us, we'll be nice to you, and we'll hear you out, even if you say something that is offensive. We want to have those conversations, so please get in. I doubt that you're going to call, to be clear, but I'm just saying, we expect you to call in, or you'll get muted in the chat. So with
And I,
that
I, ju-
said,
I
yeah,
just
go ahead.
real quick want to issue a correction. We didn't light hundreds of billions of dollars on fire. We handed hundreds of billions of dollars to the military-industrial complex. So,
Yeah.
those rich assholes that are profiting off of their tax burden being moved onto you, the working people of this country,
Mm-hmm.
well, they're also making billions of dollars off of this war in Iran. And just worth noting that it's not just wasting the money; it's going to someone. It's just going to the richest people on earth. So
Yeah, totally.
stop being a
Which is a
sap,
worthy
stop being a
cause, I guess.
Republican.
Sarcasm.
Yeah.
The worthy cause of lining the pockets of multimillionaires and billionaires, who want to control every aspect of your life and take away your job and replace you with an automaton. So that's going to be great for our country. Anyway, so we've got a few people in the call-in queue. I think we were looking at 17-4 next. What do you think?
Let's do it. I'm so excited.
All right, we are going to talk to Guy, he, him pronouns, calling from Minnesota, who doesn't understand the quote trans issue. Guy, you are live on the line with Luxander and Riverboat Jack. How's it going?
Very well. Nice to see you, Lux. I'm glad to talk to you. I've fallen in love with you over the last couple of months. And Jack, I'm sorry I have not seen you before.
It's okay. I'm relatively new.
That's all right. I love your hair, though. Always love redheads.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Guy, lay it out on us. What's your issue today? What do you want to talk about?
Okay. I'm kind of an idiot. I've watched a lot of Forrest Valkai stuff, a lot of Guts and Gibbons stuff. I've been watching The Line for a while. And if somebody was to ask me if trans people were, the whole trans thing was real or not, I would have to say, I don't know. I think so, but I don't know. But my main thing is trans people are people. And everybody, I mean, call somebody what they want to be called. Why is it deal? But, you know, I don't understand a whole lot of the trans thing, but I still think that out of just basic human respect. And, yeah, the whole bathroom thing, I don't understand why people are so up in arms. There's just so much I don't understand.
Well, you know, if it helps any, I also don't understand why people are making a big deal out of the bathroom stuff. And I agree with you. Trans people are people. So at least we can start from like a point of like basic agreement on some of these things. Where exactly are you kind of running into some confusion?
If I could define that well, I could probably work my way through it.
Okay.
Okay. Let me jump track this a little bit. I called earlier and talked to Matt Dillahunty and tried to explain myself to him. It didn't take very long, couple minutes, till he was screaming at me that, yes, I'm still an asshole.
That sounds right.
Which,
sounds like Matt.
I almost feel privileged being called an asshole by Matt on air. But I just, am I the asshole for not really for not getting it?
I mean, I don't think you're necessarily an asshole for not understanding something. I would never call someone an asshole for not understanding, but I guess it depends on like the way in which you go about not understanding something. So like we're here to help you maybe understand, and we'd love a little bit more like guidance on where we can help you kind of put some pieces together.
Yeah, where did Matt call you an asshole about? Like,
Yeah,
like
that's
at what
actually a
point?
great place to start.
When did the conversation break down?
I had much more succinctly, explained to him that I don't know what's going on with the trans thing. Just tell people what they want to be called. To me, it doesn't matter to me if trans is real or not. I think it's what set him off. Because I don't care if trans are real or not. You think you are. You want me to call you they, them, she, her. What you want me to call you what? I want you to call me he. Mutual respect, To me, none of the science really matters because we're talking about people.
Honestly, I wish more people took that perspective, Guy. Like, really, this is the thing is like, obviously I do a lot of education, and that's important to me to clarify the issues, because some people aren't like you. They think that they need to understand before they can take that step of like, of respecting pronouns, or like they have a deeply entrenched belief about what sex and gender mean, where they're like, I think you're lying if you call yourself a woman but you were born with a penis, So I obviously, that type of advocacy is something that I engage with, but I kind of wish that there were more people who took a more libertarian perspective on it. That's like, look, whether the science says this or that or the other, we're talking about just respecting people. And ultimately, it's none of my goddamn business. Like, I really wish that we could more broadly adopt that classical blue collar perspective, at least from my Midwest, kind of growing up in the Midwest, that, what other folks want to do with their time is their business, and it's your job to just not be an asshole to them about it. So, I'm happy to help clarify any questions on the issue, but I actually kind of appreciate that, you know, like whether whether it's quote real or not is kind of irrelevant to whether you can approach a person with a basic level of respect and at least avoid doing the thing that they have told you is hurtful to them. So whether or not you deeply truly believe that a trans woman is a woman and therefore you should use she her pronouns to describe her, because some people do that whole like, well, your pronouns refer to your biology stuff. You know, to just be able to go, look, even if I don't believe that on an inherently deep level, I'm still going to at least avoid doing the thing that's harmful. Maybe you can't bring yourself to call a trans woman she her, but you can avoid calling her he him. And for me, I'm willing to be neighbors with you. I'm willing to work with you on that level. So yeah, I mean, I just, you know, I'm glad that you take that perspective and I appreciate it.
Okay. Well, good. Now I can wait until Matt doesn't have anybody call and tell him Lux says I'm not an asshole.
Yeah. You tell him I said that.
But yeah, I think I'll watch more Forrest, see what I come up with. But yeah, I mean, I've seen trans people, period, of times throughout my life. I worked at a retail store, and a guy came in, scruffy looking, blue dress, literal army boot, and I was a receiving manager. None of the employees in the store wanted to talk to him. So I went up and we chatted a little bit, and he was going through therapy, pre-surgery, and he needed to buy 4 computers. So that worked out well.
Yeah.
But anyway,
listen, I'd rather build coalition with people who are good intentioned and like, I don't get it, but it's okay.
Exactly. So that's all I really want. I don't want to burn up a bunch of your time on this. I stupid shit. But thank you very much. I just wanted to find out if where my head's at now is okay.
Yeah, and I think that the fact that you are seeking to deepen your understanding is a good thing. You know, like you've clearly recognized that like you are not someone who knows everything about this topic and you're looking to learn more, and I think that's admirable. I think that's good. A lot of people could do well to maintain their curiosity and continue to learn about this topic, because the problem is a lot of people just go, well, trans women aren't women, so I'm not going to look into this anymore. Like they kind of embrace these thought terminating cliches. And you know, you're at least approaching this from a level of basic, you know, having a basic level of human compassion and then also having curiosity. And you know, you're not quite there yet when it comes to like the trans issue. You aren't quite sure where you stand on that. And that I think that if you keep paying attention and keep pursuing this, I think you will eventually figure out like whether or not trans people are real. And I wish we could help you to do that today, but you know, it seems like you need to figure out exactly where your confusion is. And you know, I wish you the best of luck in figuring that out. When you do figure it out, feel free to call in again, and we'll do our best to help you put together some pieces.
All righty, sounds great. Thank you so very much for talking to me, and you both have a wonderful day. And again,
You too, Guy.
I'm so happy I got to talk to you.
Yeah, no worries, Guy. We appreciate you. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, we're not getting any spice today. Where is the spice? The spice must flow. I've never seen Dune or read it, so I'm just making a cultural reference that I don't fully understand. I think it's drugs. I think it's like space cocaine. That's kind of the impression that I've gotten.
It's space cocaine that allows you to go faster than the speed of light.
Woo! We're zooming.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I do want to watch them. I like the new ones with Zendaya. I just really like Zendaya. So I feel like I should watch the new ones.
I'm really looking forward to the conservative reaction to Dune Messiah. That's going to be really fun. It's going to be really fun for me personally, watching a lot of the people who've built up their fandom on the conservative side of things for Dune try and grapple with Dune Messiah. So
Is this like when conservatives like Star Trek and you're like, what did you watch?
it's kind of like when conservatives like Star Trek, except that it's like if you saw I don't exactly know what a good analogy would be, but it's like let me put it this way: Dune is not a story about the Jesus Christ like figure arriving to save everyone. It's a story that is explicitly very critical of that narrative.
Okay.
And a lot of conservatives who've been watching the first two movies are like, Paul Atreides, he's just like Jesus Christ. It's, oh my God, can't wait for the third one. And I don't think they're going to get exactly what they want out of this one.
I look forward to seeing their hopes and dreams dashed. That's going to be good. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Cool. Well, we're going to work with what we've got today. We've got some advice calls waiting in the queue. I think we might queue up this next one, and then I'm going to run to the restroom really quick. So
Yeah.
let's talk to Elle, who's been waiting for a while. Elle, they, them pronouns, calling from New York and wants to ask some questions about being excluded in the trans community. Elle, you are live on the line with Luxander and Riverboat. Jack, how you doing?
Hi.
Hello.
How are you guys?
We're
Doing good
all
so
right.
far.
So I've been feeling like left out of the trans community from being non-binary, like getting called they fab, but I don't like fit the like they fab thing, the stereotype. And like there was like I saw like this video of a creator saying that non-binary people are quote unquote colonizing trans spaces, but I also should add this creator was white, so the word colonization here is doing a lot.
Yeah.
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 But I've been feeling like really bad.
Yeah. And I'm not super familiar with AFAB stereotypes as it relates to non-binary folks, but I can tell you that like if there are creators who are saying like non-binary folks are colonizing trans spaces, like that's just transphobia. Like it's just transphobia with being perpetuated within like the trans community. It's deeply unfortunate, but there's a certain group of people in the online trans spaces that feel the need to like build up their own validation by putting other people down. And trans medicalists or turfy trans women, like they exist, and it's deeply unfortunate. But just know that you are valid and you are accepted by the vast majority of trans people in the world. So like you're not alone.
Because I've been having like category 10 MTBs about like everything that's been going on in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like seeing that one video didn't help, but also like just the word colonization just like threw me for a fucking loop. I don't know if we can swear.
Oh, go for it.
I'm like, you as a white woman cannot be saying these words. It was a white trans woman specifically.
Yeah.
And like I am heavily body modded, and that's how I like I guess transitioned in a way. I also did take HRT for a little bit, but I didn't like certain things that it caused medical issues. And and then also I had to get surgery, major surgery recently, and I had to take a lot of my body mods out, which has been causing a lot of dysphoria. And it's just been a whole like shit show.
Yeah. And like having that come from a community that should have your back, having like that kind of let's call it what it is, bigotry coming from other members of the trans community, that hurts more, I think, than when it comes from places you'd more expect it to come from, like, you know, Republican lawmakers and stuff like that. So I can understand how that cuts pretty deep.
Yeah, because I'm expecting it more from like someone like my dad, who's like the most like independent voter. The median voter's mind is
Oh dear.
specimen. But like it cut me real deep, and I remember that night was real bad for me. And also, have you been hearing the TME and the TMA
I
debate?
hate it. It's so stupid. Like
I've
this
been
dichotomy, I want to explain for the chat who
Yeah, I have
may
no
not
idea
have
what
heard
this
of this
means.
before. So it's this concept that you are either affected by trans misogyny or you are exempt from trans misogyny. So TMA, TME, trans misogyny exempt, trans misogyny affected. And I think it's really stupid because I am not a trans woman and I was assigned female at birth. And yet my status as a trans person and as a femme means that I am targeted primarily by trans misogyny. Like, very rarely do people think like that they're going to say like you'll never be a man. Like they say things like you're not a real woman and things. Like so I am affected by trans misogyny more than any other specific intersection of trans like oppression or whatever. Um so yeah, I think it's just a way of reducing the conversation all the way back down to your assigned sex at birth. Like, I think it fundamentally is just a way to avoid saying, well, this issue really, well, you're only allowed to talk about this issue if you were assigned male at birth. Because
Yeah.
if you were assigned female at birth, then you couldn't possibly be affected by trans misogyny. And I don't know if you were around, Jack. This reminds me of a couple of years back, there was some art that a non-binary person had made that went up in like a community building or something it was like a cartoonish representation of a trans person and basically it triggered some people's ideas about like negative stereotypes about non-passing trans women where
Mm.
it was like a person with stubble and very bright makeup and lots of people we're taking that very personally, like, oh, this trans masculine artist made this art that's basically making fun of trans women. And it's like, no, that's what my trans masculine friends look like. They have stubble and they wear makeup and they have
Mhm.
flat chests and like hairy chests and things. And the idea that like trans women were so threatened by a representation of a non-binary person who is assigned female, like it puts us in conflict with one another in a way. Like, I fundamentally mistrust trans activists, and it's usually trans women who are doing this, who are like, trying to put us in opposition to one another and basically trying to position their oppression as more significant or more harmful or more worthy of discussion. So
Mhm.
yeah, I frankly think that it's a useless frame. I mean, it's a useful framework in that it tells me who I should not bother
Yeah.
to listen to, basically.
Yeah, I mean, like if
uh,
somebody is relying on TME, TMA, like they are telling you not to interact with them
Yeah.
essentially. Like they I like just hearing about that for the first time right now, my initial reaction to that is just it seems like a way to like you said, reduce the issue down to a cudgel that you can use to beat other people down and tell them they are not allowed to have an opinion on this. And like the reality is, trans misogyny affects everybody. It affects everybody. It's not limited to any one group. And if you think you're immune to it, like that's probably a problem. You know?
I also think it's extremely bio essentialist.
Oh
Like
yes,
you're
absolutely.
reducing it like way down to like your assigned like sex and like down to like maybe your chromosomes, quote unquote, if you test it. Like, and I've been trying to say that, and everybody's like, no, the trans men kill us, all this like garbage, and I'm like, remember the Epstein files where they were saying like they wanted to kill the trans men and they wanted to
Yep.
sexualize the trans women? Like, that was the entire plan,
Yep.
but nobody gets that.
No,
Like,
they
I
they
don't
don't.
understand.
I mean, they like a lot of people just want to, they want to make it into less of a personalized issue where it's just like we are naturally wrong for being trans or naturally wrong for being the wrong kind of trans. And like it's just a bullshit argument. It's a bullshit argument when cisgender people make it. It's a bullshit argument when trans people who are trying to be like better than other types of trans people make it. And like you are right to feel that that is bullshit.
hmm And like, it just felt real bad. And like, I don't know, they be like they fab, like all that. Ugh.
That's a very
Like,
specifically
even like,
derogatory term in my
Yeah.
experience. Like it's not like,
yeah.
oh, it's not like something we invented to describe ourselves. It's very much like, well, you like, again, it's like it's bioessentialism. Like we don't take you seriously because you were assigned female, and we are not going to take any time to examine why we're doing the same thing. Everybody, like, yeah, trans women are, in this narrative, they're predatory and they're trying to insert themselves into women's spaces. Note the word insert as this, like,
Yeah.
reducing you down to your biological things. And then, like, by comparison, there's this irreversible damage thing about trans men and like, oh, our long lost lesbian daughters and oh, they don't know any better. And, we're just reducing people back down to, trans women we're pretending like they're men and we're going to talk about them like they're men. Trans men and anyone assigned female who is identifying as trans, like we're going to reduce them down to, treating them like women, little airheads who are hysterical and don't know any better. And oh, they'll just grow out of it. And all this internalized, oh, you're just dealing with internalized misogyny. That's why you don't want to identify as a woman. Like annoying bullshit that doesn't really serve any practical purpose. I mean, I don't know. I don't really know what people are getting at. I think that people feel better than other people, or they want to feel better than other people. So it's like, well, I might be a trans woman who's been maligned by society and is having all these difficulties, but at least I'm not a they fab. Like, yeah, it's hierarchical in a way that's pretty annoying.
Yeah, and I think it's also an effort to be like, well, if I'm better than a different kind of trans person, then that means maybe on some level I'm safer
True.
than that other kind of trans person. And that's again just bullshit. It's just bigotry.
Yeah.
Like,
we're all in the boat together.
yeah.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, we should be like being in a big kind of coalition instead of like trying to segment each other.
Yeah. I
We're
hope that
just
you
like,
have alternatives for community, because it sounds like did this happen in person with some, sorry, I stepped away to go to the restroom. But was it like you were in person with some people who were basically saying you're not allowed to be part of the group?
no, it was like, I was just watching a video and like, it was in the middle of the night and I was having a real bad night and kind of like having a, storm of issues. And like, that was during the whole like Trump, like truth socialing, all that like bullshit. So we were not, and I was going through problems with my parents. So like, Bessie was not doing okay.
Yeah, it's not a good mix.
So
Well, so what I would say is like, I really, really encourage you to find some in-person community. You live in New York, so I feel like even if you live in like upstate New York where it's a little bit, you're not in the city, but like if it's a college group or a support group, like I was in a trans only support group that was like technically it was therapy. But it was basically just like we were socially supporting each other, or find a queer improv group or something, because I think that, you know, we get so tied up in these dynamics online, and it's really easy for people to talk a big game and denigrate others from behind a computer screen, versus like in practicality, in person, when folks are doing activism or when we're interacting, you know, we don't do all this purity bullshit. You can't. You know, if you're trying to work in
Yeah.
coalition with people to accomplish anything, you're going to, like, if you're trying to help the homeless, you're going to encounter a homeless person who is using the N word and the F slur, and you're going to have to help that person anyway. You know, you don't get to say, like, well, you don't get to eat today because you're mentally
Yeah, because
unstable
you
and you're using racist
called you the
language.
N-word. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, I think that a lot of this kind of defeatism that we can run into, where we feel like, you know, lack of acceptance and everything, I think, you know, whether, and I'm broadcasting this message not just to you, Elle, but folks should make an effort to meet folks in person and get some, you know, real world experience, volunteer. Even like, there are queer youth organizations that you could volunteer at to help the young people and help influence the next generation, and maybe help them see that this terminally online bullshit is not particularly helpful. Because yeah, in person, folks are generally going to be more accepting. And I just also want to say, I really love that you kind of mentioned earlier that your transition has partially been through non-standard body modification. Like, I really appreciate that, and I think it's really fucking cool. I know of a woman who is like getting her entire body tattooed blue because she feels like dysphoric when she's
Ooh.
not blue. And I'm like, that's really cool.
That is so cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
because I'm in the alternative like scene.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
yeah,
I'm not
I used
active in
to
it,
be
but I
like a
feel
tattoo
spiritually
artist.
aligned with you in that way.
Yeah. So I was a piercer and a tattoo artist, but I moved upstate because of certain things.
Mhm.
So that's what I used to do.
Yeah. But I'm sure that there's still some
And
amount
I
of community you
found,
could find, and even if
yeah,
you only meet like one or two friends, like, that amount of community is still going to be significantly impactful on your mental health.
Hell yeah.
yeah.
And
Well, did
also,
you Yeah, go ahead.
I can just tell you from experience, like I've been there, the late night spiral.
Mhm.
I have just had to limit myself from watching content that could potentially like trigger me to go into a spiral in the late night hours. Like I specifically curate, like, you know, a movie rather than scrolling through social media, or like, you know, a television show that I know is kind of like a comfort show or something like that, or a video game, even like something that I know is not going to cause me to have an existential spiral. Because I know the last couple of days especially, like
Yeah.
on my show, I talk about the news. So like I woke up and I saw the
I
news about
am
Donald
a,
Trump on Truth
I'm
Social.
in the Discord.
Okay. Yeah. But like I was spiraling all that day. So like I'm right there
Yeah.
with you, and it is hard, but like you can maybe set up an environment for yourself where you aren't as prone to spiraling.
And Ember in the
Mhm.
chat, who's a friend of the show, recommends that you check out CNY Pride and LGBT Syracuse. Those might be some groups that could help you connect to some resources locally.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, though. This was a great conversation, also to get the whole like TME bullshit talked out, because like I've been like thinking about that, and like I know it's bioessentialist, and I'm like I need it's just like I need to fight it. I need to like talk about this.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you for bringing
totally.
it
I
up.
just hate it. I hate it.
Deservedly so, I think. Yeah. Well,
Mm.
thank you for calling, Elle. We really appreciate it, and we hope this has helped a little bit. Do you have any final comments you want to make before we move on to our next call?
Bioessentialism is bullshit. That's it.
Hell yeah.
Amazing. All right. Thank you, Elle, so much. good luck out there. And if those resources help, let us know so that we can direct more people toward those resources.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye. Have a good day.
Bye.
You too. We've got trolls in the chat. I see you. I'm like the Eye of Sauron over there. You can't, it's like slightly off screen. You can't see it, but I've got the fucking Barad-dûr tower thing. It's very satisfying that I finished that. Lego, man, Lego. But anyway, I see you with my Eye of Sauron in the chat. And if you want to call in, listen, you'll get to the front of the line because, we want to have at least one. I would love to have at least one good contentious call. We're only going to be taking calls for another hour or so before we move on to our super chats and our kind of wrap up at the end of the show. So, I'm not going to let you drop slurs if you call in. But if you want to make a substantive argument besides just spamming the F slur in the chat, which, first of all, I don't really think bothered anybody here, but, congratulations on your attempt.
You know what? My challenge to them is to present a substantive argument because I don't think they can. I don't think they can. If they could, they would have called in and bested us in the arena of ideas.
That's true. Wasn't there supposed to be a wave of new, like a generation of Charlie Kirks? What happened to that?
Why aren't you guys carrying the flame? What happened? If you're not carrying the Charlie Kirk flame, are you carrying the Fuentes fire? I don't know. What? Like, come on, present some arguments. Even Nick Fuentes makes arguments, and he's like one of the biggest dipshits there is.
Yeah. Listen, we would like to be able to entertain those conversations, but it seems like y'all are weak and all you can bring is slurs and no actual substantive anything. So yeah, somebody said, mic up, bitch ass trolls. You guys are going to get muted because you're not allowed to do all caps in the chat. Just to be clear, don't do all caps in the chat. You will get muted for doing that. But thank you for that. It was still funny when I saw it before it got muted. Anyway, we do have a couple more screening in right now. Let's see. I just want to just kind of screen through and see if there's anything that might be potentially contentious that we would want to wait for. Because we've got a lot of advice calls, and while I'm happy to do that, I want to get at least one solid good one. Reading and talking at the same time is hard, though. Why don't you talk for a second while I read?
Yeah, I don't know. How we doing, chat? A lot of people not seeming to recall who Charlie Kirk was. I mean, that's fine. That's fine.
I think they're joking.
I know.
Who? That's the funniest thing. Yeah. Charlie Kirk who?
Also, it does look like a couple trolls tried to call in, but attempted to skip the screening process. It seems like so. You gotta be at least somewhat good faith to make it through. But yeah, I really I'm not surprised, I guess, to learn about that there's a TMA TME discourse, but like that is some real bullshit. There are a few things that make me as mad as like transphobes within the trans community. Like I don't know. For me, like I grew up without like trans people around me, and like eventually I figured out that I was trans, but like I understand the perspective of somebody who is like just isolated, doesn't know trans people, and is coming to like their ignorant or bigoted opinions by accident, or like because they just don't know that there are other kinds of people out there that are trans for real, and have been like exposed to trans people only through like the Maury show or like Jerry Springer or whatever. And so like it just makes me way more upset and angry when the people who are spreading the transphobia and are trying to other people are also trans, and the people they're targeting are trans too. Like it's just we're gonna have a circular firing squad, and it's just so stupid. It's so stupid. We should all have each other's backs. God
Pretty depressing. Yeah. Just in general, like
we should be better than this.
Genuinely, yeah. I feel like Yeah, I think it is truly people just hoping that they're the last one who gets knocked into the mass grave.
Yep.
You know that but I wish that we could join in coalition, right? I get
Yeah.
and the thing is too that like I didn't start it, but I'm not going to like help Blair White.
Yeah.
When somebody tells her the best thing that she could do for the conservative movement is to grow her mustache out, which has happened,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, yeah, it looks like you kind of got what you deserved there. It's like, you know, if Blair White suddenly had a change of heart, I would be like, look, you kind of have to do a lot of reparative work here to fix the harm that you've done, because so many people have looked to you and listened to you as an expert on what trans is or what it means or how we should treat or approach the issue. And yeah, I wish that people were, you know, making fewer lateral shots. Like you're just like punching sideways, and we really should be kind of joining together with one fist to go up in, you know what I mean? Like anyway, yeah, I'm making a fisting joke. Anyway, I couldn't quite bring it home. When you can't quite bring your joke home, you just say the joke that you're trying to make. We don't really have any that are kind of, I guess like 28-1 might be
Yeah, we could do that.
lightly. Okay. So we are going to talk to Elannar, she, her pronouns, calling from Washington, who wants to talk about the SCOTUS decision on conversion therapy. Elannar, you are live on the line with
Hi.
Luxander and Jack. How's it going?
Hi, Lux. I was pretty good. I called in last week. I wanted to first off tell you, Lux, that your point about the genetic testing position I was taking is accelerationist. I hadn't thought of that. Thank you so much for pointing that out.
Sure.
Riverboat Jack, this one's more for you because you tend to take more political issues on your show, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So this is in re SCOTUS overturning the Colorado conversion ban, or not exactly overturning it. This is where things get interesting. I'm going to try and make the argument that this is the least bad possible decision they could have made. Because of the way, are you familiar with the way common law works?
I am not, but I am familiar with the liberal justice's dissent on the case. So I think that might be the direction you're going with this, but please, by all means, lay it out.
My argument is sort of tangential to Justice Kagan's, but not the same. So because of the way common law works, laws the legislature pass aren't actually the law. It's not. The way common law works is that whatever the legislature passes acts as a sort of mimetic guideline for the judiciary, and it's the judiciary who make the actual laws. That's the reason common law is often called case law, is because it's individual legal cases that actually determine the law. So, for example, with the Kansas ban on, I believe it was bathrooms, there being no punishment specified is actually way more dangerous, because some conservative judge can just simply do something incredibly outlandish, and unless that gets contested, that's the precedent now, and that's binding on all lower courts and all future decisions. And it also becomes a mimetic guideline for all other adjacent courts. So any courts below Kansas is binding, but anyone next to Kansas, like over in Missouri or Idaho or something, it's not binding, but there's a good chance that judges are going to follow it. That's the reason the 1919 Dodge v. Ford Motor Company decision isn't actually binding on all 50 states. I believe it was decided in Ohio. But that doesn't mean that people aren't following it. And that doesn't mean that judges have not concurred with it, even though it's not binding. So I think the argument Lux made last week is that therapy, or maybe this was Ben, therapy isn't free speech. And first off, the law kind of doesn't care about actual ontology. Therapy may or may not ought to be considered speech, and therefore specifically free speech and therefore protected. The question is whether or not it is within case law. So if it is considered free speech and you set that precedent, then other actors can argue in court based on that decision, potentially in ways that are detrimental to your own laws. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm kind of seeing the shape of the argument here related to Kagan's dissent. Yeah.
There are consequences, and there's a lot of politicking that goes on. So the specific decision that SCOTUS made is to send it back to the lower courts to be reviewed with the utmost of judicial scrutiny. And I kind of think that is the least bad possible decision, because it's not a ruling. It is not actually saying we uphold this or we overturn this. It's throwing it back to someone else, which means that it's not binding on all 50 states. It's binding on whoever is underneath the court that actually makes that decision. I want to say that's the Second or Third Circuit Court of Appeals is the next highest where Colorado is. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't really matter. The point is, if SCOTUS were to rule...
I muted myself. I want to ask a clarifying question, Elannar. Did you say that this was like the best outcome?
The best possible outcome given this case, not the best outcome in general.
Yeah.
The best outcome would this case never be brought, but that didn't happen.
Well, I mean, because you mentioned, and you're correct, that like case law is binding at the lower levels. Like, would it not have been the best outcome for the Supreme Court to make a definitive ruling that it's not an acceptable practice, and then that would be binding on all lower courts, which would be 50 states?
That would be worse. I am claiming that would be worse than the decision they did make, the 8-1 majority. That makes sense.
Shocking to me.
Why are you making that claim?
Because if what I will call conversion practices, this is a distinction I did draw because it's a distinction that can be argued in court, so it's an important distinction. If conversion practices are declared by SCOTUS to be free speech, that decision is binding on lower courts. So were, say, a Florida legislative session pass some kind of bill requiring conversion practices be conducted, for requiring, for example, mental health providers to conduct some amount of conversion practices before offering gender-affirming care, because SCOTUS says that is free speech, that actually becomes compelled speech on the part of the Florida legislature, which means that bill would get shot down immediately. Like, easiest in the basket, easiest case you could make to shoot that hypothetical Florida bill down. Now, were SCOTUS to say that that conversion practices are not free speech, then there's no real argument against that hypothetical Florida bill, right? What SCOTUS did was neither of those things. SCOTUS didn't make a ruling at all. They tossed it back to the lower courts, which means that there is no decision binding on lower courts, but there are guidelines because the logic for the decision made was that it is free speech. So I'm not an attorney. I'm not in law school. Haven't even taken the LSAT. I really want to. But my understanding is that because Kagan and the other concurring opinions have said that conversion practices do count as free speech in a non-binding decision rather than a ruling, that is mimetic guidance for lower courts, such as the Court of Appeals that governs Florida's court system. Does that make sense?
It does. I guess what I'm struggling with is just, it seems to me like the best possible outcome, which was not a realistic outcome that we could have gotten from this particular Supreme Court, but the best possible outcome would just be this is not acceptable, like, medical practice Like, it's obviously medical malpractice. It should be banned. End
Well, here's
of
the
story,
problem.
right?
I don't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry. I have
Oh,
audio
no, go for it.
processing delay. Here's the problem is that most people who are doing conversion practices aren't doing it in a medical context. It's not some therapist with a license doing conversion practices. It's like your pastor, speaking from experience. It's your parents. It's someone your family considers authoritative. It's some spiritual guidance, whatever, what have you. Point is, it's not actually under the jurisdiction of any kind of medical license. So you can't actually hold the threat of someone losing their medical license for malpractice against someone trying to do conversion practices, because most people trying to do conversion practices aren't under that jurisdiction to begin with.
But I guess I'm saying, like, it seems to me like the same way if an unlicensed doctor was doing unsupervised surgery in like a basement, that would be largely regarded as illegal. In a similar way, doing like specific conversion therapy practices would also fall in a similar way to this, right? So like I guess I'm just saying, like, in my mind, like, the best outcome possible would be this practice is illegal. And obviously we weren't going to get that from this particular Supreme Court. And so, like,
Yeah.
I understand the justices that concurred, because they're essentially saying, like, well, if this is found as free speech, which is what the majority seems inclined to do here, well, we want to make sure that, like, we aren't in fact setting up a situation where states can ban gender affirming therapy, because we don't want that to come back and bite us in the ass, essentially. And it just seems to me that Justice Jackson kind of has it right here, that, like, the practical effects of this decision, which again, I understand the liberal concurrence, but I think Jackson is correct when she wrote her, rebuttal, essentially, to say this is going to harm a lot of people. And I think that it's a fundamental disconnect within the Supreme Court itself between, are people, like, are we talking about like an abstract right, or are we talking about like the material harms? And the vast majority of the court seem to be more interested in debating the abstract right rather than talking about the material harms that are certainly going to flow from this. And
Yeah.
so, to a degree, like, I understand what you're saying when you're like, this is one of the least bad options, because I kind of agree on that front. But, like, there were definitely better options on the table. Like, we just weren't going to get those better options because the majority of the court is absolutely lost their marbles.
Yeah, like we we did talk about this last week, and I do remember our conversation, at least bits and pieces of it from last week. And it's like, okay, I do recognize that this ruling doesn't actually have to do with the actual medical practice of therapy. That's why we backtracked and established like therapy practices, or sorry, conversion practices, not conversion therapy, because are we trying to limit what your pastor can say? But there are limits to free speech.
I can
Like, we
interject for a
do.
second.
I was about to like drive toward a larger point, but so like we do limit we limit actions of speech when they are harmful. So you can't just say anything you want at any time, even if we have First Amendment protections. And it's just a real failure, I think, in this instance, to not recognize that this type of speech is harmful and therefore is not protected speech, because, like, and we talked about potentially establishing this as like a type of abuse, because abuse is not protected speech. And yeah, I don't know exactly what would need to happen in the law for this to occur, like for us to be able to limit conversion practices to say like it is actually illegal for a parent to forcibly prevent their child from exploring their gender identity, or for a pastor to tell a child or anyone that they are not.
You have demons.
Yeah, that you're a demon or whatever. That we gotta exorcise you, and obviously exorcism itself is restricted in ways. But unfortunately, I think we're running into an issue where because something is popular and common, it's being permitted. Like the entire reason that religious belief is not considered a delusion is because it's a largely shared delusion, which is frustrating.
Yeah, it's a delusion I happen to hold. So let's not touch that particular.
I mean, you're calling into an atheist show, and it's relevant to the discussion because we're talking about religious conversion practices.
Not necessarily religious. I've definitely seen it from secular people or people approaching it from a secular point of view. I know. I won't say my parents aren't religious. My mom at least tries to justify her support of conversion practices from a secular argument, which it's obviously inconsistent with the actual empirical evidence, but that's neither here nor there. It is an argument that can be made. And there is a problem with saying that I do have a problem with Jackson's rebuttal. And it essentially boils down to, great, we're going to touch another third rail. Roe, Doe, and Dobbs. Ready for this?
Yep.
Okay, so because of the way common law works, the judiciary makes the law. That actually means that the Constitution isn't the binding law of the land. Whatever SCOTUS says is the binding law of the land. And this is where things get kind of dicey, because SCOTUS can actually just make shit up. They're allowed to do that. That's what they did with Roe and Doe. They just pulled the right to privacy out of their ass. I'm not saying that was a bad thing. I think the right to privacy should be in the Constitution.
Wait, no, is that not? No, I'm pretty sure that's in the 14th Amendment. I'm pretty sure it is like the 14th Amendment is one of the longer ones, but I'm like pretty sure it's like specifically enumerated in the 14th Amendment that you have a right to privacy. They just
okay,
said, hey, the right to privacy applies to your medical stuff. Like, I have looked it up. I'm pretty sure it's in there, and it's just how they interpreted the right to privacy to apply to your medical situation.
And I'm not disagreeing with the end result of Dobbs. I'm saying, supposing they did just pull it out of their ass, which is my understanding at least. I agree with the result, but that is what they did. And the reason that's important is because when Dobbs went and overturned Roe, that was the logic Dobbs said was unfounded. Dobbs is completely wrong. It's incorrect. It's objectively incorrect with respect to common law. Common law says that SCOTUS is allowed to do that. But that was the argument made, which means it's now binding on lower courts. So this decision handed down by SCOTUS is that you can't just make shit up anymore. You can't pull things out of your ass to make a decision because you think it's right rather than it pertains to the law. So you have to at least be able, as a judge, you have to be able to at least convince your readers that you are medically applying the law rather than just making shit up, which of course creates a whole bunch of perverse incentives with respect to absurd rationalization. I just pulled up the 14th Amendment. I'm going to, do you know which particular section?
Yeah, it's a long one. I'm in the middle of reading it right now.
Shall I just read it off, like, into the record?
No, it's good. I don't need you to read a whole paragraph at me. Yeah. I guess the word privacy, yeah, it is subject to their interpretation of the terms of deprivation of liberty. Yeah. And equal protection under the law. I think like the equal protection under the law aspect was a pretty critical element of it as well. Yep. Right of privacy, personal autonomy. Yeah, that has to do with
paragraph 3. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm going to read this in.
The privacy and personal autonomy thing was an interpretation in Planned Parenthood v. Casey 1992. Okay, so I was incorrect that it is specifically enumerated, but it is predicated on the text of the law regarding liberty and equal protection.
Yeah. Okay, and here's where memetics comes in, because it's the right to privacy isn't enumerated here, and an argument could be made that this has nothing to do with privacy. I'm not going to make that argument because I think it's fucking stupid, but it can be made, and similar arguments have been made in court and won. So this isn't a foreign concept. The point I'm making is that Dobbs went and overturned SCOTUS and everyone below SCOTUS's ability to make shit up, including saying that the right to privacy is covered by the 14th Amendment.
Oh, it's covered by the 4th Amendment. The 4th Amendment guarantees right to privacy. Yeah. But I don't think the 4th Amendment was what was cited in Roe v. Wade.
I don't know whether or not it was. Kind of again, I'm not an attorney. I have not done my due diligence up to the standard of an attorney. I've done my due diligence up to the standard of a rank amateur. But this is interesting stuff. So the problem with Ketanji Brown Jackson is she absolutely could have said that conversion practices are abuse, and you need this needs to be illegal because it's abuse. Boom, there's your decision. If they had made that decision, it would have been overturned on the ground of someone else arguing from Dobbs. Because if someone argues from Dobbs and SCOTUS still decides against them, that's grounds for impeachment, which is the only accountability SCOTUS justices have. And this is where Riverboat Jack, you mentioned unlicensed doctor surgery, something I've been taking notes. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay.
That your argument is that conversion practices should fall under malpractice. And my problem with that is that now it becomes binding that conversion practices are therapeutic in some sense. Under the law,
I don't think that is the implication at all.
I'm pretty sure case law disagrees with you. Whether or not it's irrelevant to case law.
I think they're certainly presenting it as a type of therapy, or like an attempt to apply the practice in order to achieve a certain result, and using psychological methods which are understood to be legitimate therapeutic practices, broadly speaking, like to address something from a psychological angle to achieve a certain result, to resolve a dysfunction as they portray it. I think that it holds enough similarities to say that this is a type of medical malpractice, in the way that if you were I've decided that no one should have kidneys anymore, and kidneys are fundamentally unhealthy and we should remove them from everybody. Just because it's not broadly understood to be medicine doesn't mean that is not a type of practice or a position that is piggybacking off of the medical establishment and carrying itself along as though it is addressing a medical problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, I am not an attorney. I am not formally trained in the law. I don't. I'm going to kind of go out on a limb here and say this is very much my intuition talking rather than I have hard sources within case law, because I'm not an attorney. I don't know how to find stuff like that very efficiently. It takes time. But I'm pretty sure that is actually not consistent with decisions that have been made in the past within U.S. case law. If this were a different common law country like Canada, Australia, New Zealand, or the UK, that might not be the case, and your argument could stand. But I'm fairly sure that in the U.S., given decisions that the U.S. has made, saying that conversion practices fall under some form of medical malpractice implies that it is medical treatment of some sort, and should that decision that it is specifically malpractice ever be overturned or legislated against?
No. I have to
removing
interrupt
people's
you
kidneys
here.
is medical malpractice. Sorry, go ahead, Reverend.
under
Agreed.
this understanding of the law, someone who is essentially a traveling snake oil salesman is like saying that you are outlawing traveling snake oil salesmen is validating that they are providing some kind of therapeutic treatment, and like that's just not the case, right? Like if somebody's going around selling you
Right.
a holy tonic in order to cure your cancer, like that's not
Yeah.
like that is medical malpractice to present it as actual medical intervention. And so like what I'm trying to get at here is that like I think that there are pretty common sense ways where you can have laws outlawing harmful medical practices. Like we have laws outlawing harmful medical practices right now. And conversion therapy is objectively a harmful medical practice. And like I don't see that this is terribly controversial in terms of like, oh well, it's going to set up case law that will allow for abuse in the future. Like I think that if you are treating it as a medical issue and as medical malpractice instead of a free speech issue, that that takes care of most of the problems here. And the issue is that the way it was argued in the Supreme Court failed to kind of convince conservative justices that have no interest in like helping trans people or finding in favor of like pro-trans positions. Like I think that what we're looking at here is rather a situation where the law could do better. And the argument that, well, potentially someone in the future might take a, you know, might make a bad faith argument to twist and torture the definition of these things in such a way as to try and re-legalize conversion therapy. I think it's a bad argument.
Yeah, I'm also
disagree.
not letting existing
it is
I'm
a-
not letting existing case law dictate my logic on the topic. Like, so just because it may have not been found to be a type of medical malpractice in existing case law doesn't change what I see as the fact of the situation.
Okay. We agree on the objective facts of the situation. The trouble is that legal facts do not care about reality. Courts do not care about reality. Whether or not it is actually reasonable to say that ruling conversion practices being a form of medical malpractice, licensed or otherwise, does not necessitate that conversion practices are medical practice. Saying that that argument doesn't make sense, courts don't care. You can't argue just from common sense.
Well,
You have to
again,
back it
but
up with case law.
if we are now in the realm of just courts don't care about facts and courts don't really care about anything.
I agree.
Because you like then again we're in the realm of the law is just whatever judges make it, which you know
Nothing means anything in that
yeah,
situation.
like in this situation,
Agreed.
it does not
really
matter what the courts have ruled. If under your argument, it does not matter what the courts have ruled because they can just ignore what other courts have ruled, which the Supreme Court has done frequently in its recent string of
The Supreme
decisions.
Court has done that because other courts are under their jurisdiction.
Yeah, but also,
and if you have binding case law,
the Supreme Court doesn't care about binding case law.
Right. They're the only court in the land that actually has that authority. They have the final authority
so the
of review.
your entire argument falls apart on that point, which is that they could, in fact, just rule that this is harmful, like conversion therapy should be outlawed, etc. And like, then you're golden.
I think you're
like
missing,
it's fine.
This is like a 3 or 4 step dance in legal goings on, and I think you might be missing a step or two. So, supposing SCOTUS,
I just need to point out that Jack has made a career out of studying law, and no one here is more of an expert than anybody else.
That is why I'm bringing it to her.
Yeah, like, what am I missing here?
If SCOTUS rules that it is some form of medical malpractice, licensed or not, Then, in this hypothetical future, say Florida makes some regulatory guideline that conversion practices are not to be considered malpractice. Whether or not that happens in the Florida legislature or some extra legislative regulatory body that is governed by the state of Florida's government, I'm not sure what the particular intricacies there might be. Again, I'm not an attorney.
Would not the federal law supersede the state law on that particular subject?
I'm not sure whether it's not federal law; it's federal judicial ruling. And
yeah, but that is effective. That is effectively taken as like the effective law of the land, right?
Because if you cannot be absolutely sure that no one in a lower court can argue for some sort of theoretical or ontological carve-out to this particular ruling, if you are not absolutely sure that no such argument can be made, then chances are some argument can be made.
But all arguments can be made. Like all arguments can be made. Like you can make terrible arguments infinite amounts of times. And so like it
doesn't
just
make
seems
them meritorious.
Yeah, it just seems to me that like what we're arguing here is about the possibility of future arguments that may or may not hold a degree of water. And it's like this is all kind of beside the point because in a way I do agree that the way that the Supreme Court went about it is like one of the least bad options that was available to the liberal justices. Yeah. But like this is like I disagree for the reasoning why it's the least bad, I guess.
Okay.
So, yeah, like I don't think that the way that they did it is preemptively stopping bad faith arguments being made on the state level about this.
If I can point a sort of larger point out to the both of you, really, like I can tell, Jack, you're kind of outraged about how the prospect of judges can just decide whatever they want if they're on SCOTUS.
It's a frustrating fact of the world that you just said like there's arguments being made and that could be influential, but the Supreme Court doesn't have to give dick shit any care of the arguments being made. And that can be frustrating in some situations, that they don't even have to be consistent, that they can rule completely differently from one case to the next based on arbitrary political lobbying.
Right. You're assuming that SCOTUS is going to overturn their own decision, which we don't actually have in this hypothetical future where they rule that it is some form of medical malpractice. Your hope is that SCOTUS would potentially patch the holes in that particular argument.
I'm just saying it would have been nice if they had tried to do something to limit this practice, whether that's if they declare that all conversion practice is a type of torture or all of it is a type of abuse. If they had tried. To be clear, I don't think this Supreme Court is going to do anything except the worst possible thing you could imagine at any given time.
Memetics again, yeah. Do you know what memetics is? I'm realizing that's kind of a obscure word.
Okay, the study of information and culture. Okay, cool.
Yeah, sort of. It's like the Dawkinian idea of a meme. Like, just to be clear, screw Dawkins. He's a bit of a dipshit, transphobic dipshit, but he did have some good ideas with his idea of memes as the sort of informational genetic code of a society. Memetics is the study of that, so on and so forth. What time is it?
Okay. Yeah, I do think we have a couple more calls that we got to get to anyway. Okay. So yeah. Thank you, Elannar, for the call. I appreciate it.
This has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for engaging with me.
Yeah.
This has been fantastic. I think I have like two other small things I wanted to say to Lux
Make them quick.
Posting. Nope, they were for Ben. Can I just like shout out 2 seconds some beef I have with Ben?
Hold on. Let me see. Let me see when he's gonna be on next, so that it might be more beneficial to just hit him directly up.
More Ben.
Yeah, we don't need that.
Official.
When is? Ben is actually going to be back next week with me, so you'll get me and Ben again next Thursday.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I'll give him my beef then. That sounds
All
weird.
right.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks, Elannar. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
I'm going to eat all of my hair.
Oh no.
Like I don't know how else to express my frustration with that conversation. It's like I'm gonna do something crazy right now. Jesus Christ. Anyway, we're getting toward the end of the show. Did you know that after this show, you'll see me with, usually it's Jimmy Snow on the Jimmy Snow and the Line YouTube channel, but today it's me and Jovan, which is so fun because I keep meaning to get in touch with Jovan about doing a show on his channel, but he will not respond to me on Discord. So, so we're not scheduling that, but we're kind of trying to squeeze Jimmy out. You know, it's got his name on the billboard, but we're trying to just gradually squeeze him out of being on the Jimmy Snow channel. So you'll have myself and Jovan on the Calling It Now channel. If you hang out at the end of the show, it should automatically kick you over to the other live stream. Get your $5 or more super chats in. We're going to only take a couple more calls before we roll into our super chats. $5 or more, we will read them, and you can get your votes in, #Team Lux or #Team Jack, and the loser has to defend a silly position. If you guys would like to vote right now on what the silly position is, we've got Monster Energy makes you trans, which is winning right now. Harry Potter gives you brain worms, or only bisexuals get UBI. I voted for only bisexuals get UBI. I don't know why, but I really love all the bisexuals ones that we do. Like those are always the ones that I'm like, yeah, that's the one. So make sure you get your votes in and stick around if you want to see us take calls debating MAGA. We don't take basically any friendly calls on Calling It Now. So yeah, that's what's going on for the rest of the show, or for the next show. For the rest of this show, we only have time for a couple calls left, so we might not get to everybody on the lines right now. I apologize that we ran out of time a little bit here. But yeah, what did Arden just say? Arden said, okay, so next we're going to take Ashton. Ashton uses he, him pronouns, calling from Michigan, wants to talk about why trans people refer to themselves as trans female. Ashton, you're live on the line with Luxander and Riverboat Jack. How's it going?
Hi, I'm fine.
Howdy.
Awesome. Well, lay it out for us. What was your question or your contention today?
Yeah, so I've just been seeing on social media, like primarily on threads, like I get a lot of like, positive like trans stuff on there, and I see a lot of people referring to themselves as like trans female or trans male rather than like trans man or trans woman. I just kind of wanted to like know like why that would be, I guess.
I mean, I cannot peer into the minds of others. I can only speculate, and I imagine that part of it is to buck the imposition of those labels, like for a trans woman to be constantly called male. So it's partially probably to like buck that imposition and to claim like, no, I'm not male. You can't keep calling me that. Additionally, I think a lot of us feel that once we've been on hormones for a period of time, or once you've undergone certain surgeries, it's like functionally it does not make sense to continue calling that person by the sex that they were assigned. So like, I've taken the trans woman as the example. If she has been on hormones long enough to grow boobs, and if she's had bottom surgery and she doesn't grow a beard anymore or anything, then like, it's like functionally, what is the point of using this label? It's really just hurtful and not even medically relevant, because trans women's risk of all of these medical things closely matches cis women. Like, trans women don't get prostate cancer, basically. So it's like any health issues that are pertaining to, quote, being male are not really present. So, I mean, that's kind of my position on it. What do you think, Jack?
I mean, I without additional context, I'm not entirely sure like what exactly is going on, but the two possibilities that immediately leap into my mind when I just see those terms isolated are either, you know, making fun of like transphobes and the labels that transphobes put onto trans people, and just kind of, trying to own the label, make it less hurtful, or like turn it in a way
Reclaiming
that
it.
makes it, yeah, reclaiming it in a sense. And the other thing that
Okay.
I can think of is like potentially because they are in some degree like transmedicalist, which is a less charitable interpretation. But given like we've had a few calls today of people dealing with specifically transphobia within the trans community, it's a distinct possibility, and it without knowing additional context around the use of those terms and labels, it's hard to tell exactly how a person might mean it. But those are the two things that kind of leap to my mind.
Okay. Yeah, because like I'm like trans myself. I just haven't pre-transitioned still, unfortunately. So I don't know. It kind of feels like the word transsexual, I guess, to me, and like it always just gives me
Yeah,
that yucky feeling, I guess.
Yeah, which is kind of why I was like, there's the possibility that it's being used to be like, I got bottom surgery, so I'm a trans female now instead of a trans woman. Kind of like trying to like kind of adopt that trans medicalist language, but again, without knowing the context, I'm unsure if I'm being uncharitable in that reading of the term just by itself.
Also, like, I think that
Yeah.
the terms male and female are identity terms.
Mhm.
Like, somebody could be born with an intersex condition, but they might identify more one way or the other. And also, when you change your legal gender marker, I say gender marker, but the options are F and M, and they don't stand for femme and masc. It stands for female and male. So, like, I think that there is an aspect of that as well, where like those terms, while they are sort of descriptive of biological markers or biological indications, it's not like that's the end of the conversation, because people clearly do identify with those terms in the same way that they identify with terms that we think of as explicitly referring to gender identity. So, yeah, I mean, I don't want to not acknowledge that aspect of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And like, it's not like I'm gonna like go be an asshole to them or something. Like,
yeah, of course.
I don't know. I just wanted to like get your guys' opinion, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah.
Did you have any other thoughts you wanted to add on that? Or any other additional clarifying questions?
I think that was all.
Cool. All right. Well,
all right.
It's always nice to keep it brief, keeping it rolling, keeping it moving. So thank you so much, Ashton.
Yeah,
we
for
appreciate you. And I'm glad that we were able to kind of provide some clarity on this topic for you. And hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. Thanks. You too.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. We only have one call left. We had a couple people who dropped, even though we were going to take one of them. That's okay. Sad. QQQQQ. It happens. Anyway, so with that, we're going to move on to our last call for the day. And that's going to be Marcus, who uses any/all pronouns, calling from Canada, who wants to talk about intersex issues. Marcus, you are live on the line with Luxander and Riverboat Jack. How's it going?
It's going great now. I've been trying to find a time to be able to call in and talk to you, especially Luxander. So, I'm excited.
Nice. Well, lay it out for us. What is your call about today?
I'm trying to understand the difference between being trans and being non-gender, because I'm trying to figure that out for myself to a degree. And I kind of just wanted like your thoughts on it, and then where you come from, because up until actually like watching your show, and especially you, Lux. Sorry, I'm not trying to ignore you, Jack.
Oh, it's okay.
But especially
cool.
watching
We've had
you,
them both
Lux,
ways today.
is how I yeah, it's how I sort of started to figure out that I'm not what I guess I was told I was growing up, because I've always felt different and more feminine, but I don't know. That's also why the any and all pronouns, because I'm trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Was there anything specific that we could dig into? Sorry, I'm kind of half paying attention because I have to produce the next show.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I don't like is non-binary. I don't really know most of the terms. I grew up in Bumblefuck, Alberta, where hillbilly was kind of like the standard. So I don't really know the difference between trans and non-binary really, and I'm trying to figure
Sure.
that out.
Yeah. Generally speaking, not everybody agrees with me on this, but I think that non-binary is under the trans umbrella. Like, so trans in the most broad sense means you have a gender identity that's different to what you were assigned or that is not in alignment with your biological sex. So to my view, anybody who identifies as anything other than cisgender of like what they were assigned, that person is trans. So for me, and like that state of mind is the critical element that makes someone trans. But there's also like lots of non-binary people do physically transition. Like I have physically transitioned. I might continue other forms of physical transition in the future. So yeah, for me, those things are it's like a square rectangle thing, right? Like not every person who is trans is non-binary, but every non-binary person is trans. And I hedge that a little bit. I want to respect that some non-binary people don't feel quite comfortable accepting that label, which I think is kind of great because it's like yet another way in which we are defying binaries, like the binary of either you're cis or you're trans. Like, guess what? Some non-binary people are like, I'm not either of those things. Suck it, Yeah, so that's kind of the long and short of it.
Okay, thank you. That actually helped a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm really nervous. I've been watching these kind of shows since I was a kid, so I'm just
Well, you're doing great.
starstruck.
Yeah.
Starstruck.
It's all good. I think looking at the intersection with intersex is very interesting as well, because I think for so many intersex people, especially if you've known, well, I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter, but like you grow up usually being told you're one of the two things. And so, if you were to identify differently, like there are people who are intersex and are trans, right? Like if they were socialized as a boy, they were raised to be a boy, then they have feelings of like, oh, actually, I identify as a woman, and that may or may not be related to the fact that they have an intersex condition, physically speaking. But yeah, there's a really interesting question about like, an intersex person's gender identity, whether it is in line with their gender. Like, is an intersex person only considered cis if they identify as non-binary? Like, because non-binary identity is in line with like their sort of, if you want to say non-binary physical characteristics. I really just lean on that as being like a matter of self-determination. So, of course, from my angle, I think I have a difference of sex development. I haven't been diagnosed, but I think I do. So it's like, to me, I'm wondering, like, do trans people qualify as a type of intersex because our brain is part of our sex development? So if we could have a clear difference of our idea of what our body should look like in our brain, why isn't that considered a type of difference of sex development? So I tend to come at it from like the other angle, and I try to be as respectful about that as possible because I know that the experience of being surgically altered as a child, or having parents or doctors hide that information from you, and you find out when you realize you're infertile or something. Like I try to be pretty respectful about it, but I think that there is a lot of interesting overlap in the conversation.
Okay. Yeah, I had a genetics test done for health reasons a few years back, and that's how I found out I was intersex. So that was fun. Also, growing up with breasts as a very like masculine presenting man also didn't help. So
yeah,
Yeah,
I bet that's tough.
I always just thought I was fat, and it turns out I am fat, but I also have titties. So fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is it is interesting when like something, because like I had a lot of baggage around how my body presented growing up, and what I thought my body needed to be in order to align with like the gender I was assigned. And like I found it to be an incredibly freeing experience to be able to realize like, oh, I'm not in that box that I was kind of confined to. And in fact, I can be I can be non-binary, I could be agender, I could be like so many different things. And it was a very positive experience for me to be able to figure out what exactly I wanted to be rather than what box society wanted me in. And I hope you're feeling some of that freedom on your journey of self-discovery too.
I really am. I really am. I got married 2 years ago to the love of my life, and she's been helping me a lot because I grew up in a very conservative on one side, Mormon on the other family. So there was a lot of rediscovering who I am. And some of it's been painful, some of it hasn't.
Yeah.
So
It really helps to have a supportive partner. And
Big time.
congratulations on your marriage. And also similarly, I grew up in a very kind of fundamentalist Christianity household, and like grew up knowing none of the terms and asked a lot of the same questions that you're asking now. And it's just know that like when you do figure out like what your identity kind of jives with, like it feels like coming home. It's really, really nice. And I think you're gonna get there.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for talking to me, both of you. And yeah, as I said, Jack, I've only recently seen you on here, but you've been great from everything I've
Thank
seen.
you.
And Lux, I've admired you for a long time, and watching and listening to you is how I started to, ask myself these questions a bit more. So I do really appreciate that, and I'm pretty sure Arden was the screener, and I just want to shout out her as well because she was awesome and is awesome. So, yeah,
we love Arden.
Thank you
She's
very
the
much.
best.
Yeah. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much for calling. I'll let you guys, go and end the show now. And yeah, I hope you two have a wonderful day.
You
Yeah,
too.
thanks, Marcus. You too. Good luck out there.
Bye.
Okay, we did it.
We did it.
We did it.
That was a really lovely call to end on today. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. Especially after the previous frustration. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
just some wholesomeness,
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm gonna close call-in studio. Bye-bye, call-in studio. Cool. So yeah, we're gonna do super chats now. So $5 or more, you can still get those super chats in. We will be reading them, and you can vote with your super chat, hashtag Team Lux or hashtag Team Jack. And whoever loses that vote has to, looks like Monster Energy makes you trans is the silly position that we're going to be having to defend. So make sure you get your votes in to influence the results of that. And I'll let you start off.
All right. Thank you for the $5 from Catalina Gearbox. This is for Jack. If you type -AI at the end of a Google search, it will remove the overview. That is excellent advice for everyone who is doing their best to avoid AI. Don't do it, folks. Don't use AI. It's bad for you.
Oh, yeah, it does work. Okay. I kind of thought that they had scrubbed it at one point, that it was like working and then not working, but it was working again. So that's cool.
Yeah, I just read a preprint paper, and I know it's a preprint, but like found that even using AI for like 10 to 15 minutes can reduce your brain's ability to persist with learning new things.
Wow.
Or to think independently without AI, because it is such an instantaneous response. that it basically stunts your ability to like stick with something and learn it. So just
crazy.
don't do it. Just don't use AI. It's bad. It's bad for you. It's bad for your brain.
Yeah, that's wild. Well, good to know. And you know, not that I really use it a lot anyway, but definitely going to be using it even less now, especially since I know that that dash AI thing works. So cool.
Mhm.
What's some queer joy you've experienced recently from Mystic Mind Analysis? Thank you, Pip, for your $5. I found a t-shirt that says fluffy on the outside, eldritch horror on the inside. Hashtag genderqueer chaos. What is a time that I've experienced some queer joy recently? I don't know. I don't really do a lot in my actual life that has anything to do with being queer aside from just like existing. So I don't know. Do you got, maybe you'll inspire me, Jack. What are you doing?
You know, honestly, for me, it's pretty mundane, but I've been taking a more active role in like my health and like finding a kind of a kind of queer joy in like my body and
Yeah.
making like my body more like what I want it to be. And like just I after years of trying to figure out how to do like health and like fitness, finally getting to a point where I feel like I'm actually doing it.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I've been working on my health a lot because I have some kind of unspecified dysautonomia that I'm still getting diagnosed. So I would love to bulk, but I can't bulk. I have to work on other more fundamental things, and I can't push myself to failure. But here's a freebie for you guys. With the guns, I
Whoa!
just have naturally big forearms. This is me doing nothing. I just have like, this is just all au natural. So as soon as I
Can't
can
give
bulk,
You can't give away tickets to the gun show for free like that. My
I know.
gosh.
I feel like we'll get enough super chats to cover it. But thanks, everybody.
Thank you for the $5 from BB Bunny 1982. I look forward to this show every week. I feel so validated. I'm a very non-conflict person. It's nice hearing us defended or defending #Lux.
Hell yeah.
It is. I get that. I get that a lot. You know?
I know, yeah, we have a lot of trans viewers, and I think that a lot of it is just like getting validation by representation and seeing people take up those arguments when, like, you know, not everybody should do this. Not everybody needs to do this. It's unfortunate that I've inflicted this on myself. But yeah, not everybody needs to be out here making the arguments. I'm happy to take up that that cause for everybody. Thank you for the £5 from Sean Loves Maths. I'd attend LineCon if I could. I have a maths PhD to finance, write a dissertation for, have a visa for, and hopefully graduate with. So I don't know. Yeah, honestly, I don't know if I would attend an in-person LineCon either. But that's because I would be probably annoyed at like a general lack of masking at such an event. That's why I don't go places. I'm like, I don't want to deal with all of your gross germs. The fact that con crud is just a normal thing, everybody
It's
is like,
so
oh yeah,
gross. It's
you
so
shouldn't be getting
gross.
sick. It's like not good.
I went to E3 for so many years covering it when I was a game journalist, and like the level of sick people would get afterwards is just oh god.
Yeah, it's not cool.
Thank you for the $5 from William Mates, or I'm gonna go with Mates, 1991. Higacious, bigacious, figacious, fum, prestidigitatorium, #Team Lux, #NB Pride.
I knew what all those words meant. Yeah, totally. Thank you. $9.99 from Snardfluck. Louise says, I've been stealth for 40 plus years. Wow, it was a different world back in the day. I think aging has been a benefit because trans is only, quote, a new thing. Yeah, I find it so interesting. As somebody said in the chat earlier as well, that when in the past, before social media, when trans people would, quote, finish transitioning, they would like exit the trans community or, you know, just basically go full stealth, stop identifying as trans and assimilate effectively. And so it's really interesting seeing those stories and seeing the difference and that this is part of why people think it's a newfangled thing because folks really just wanted to live their lives under the radar, which I totally respect. And, you know, I don't, like I said, I don't think everybody should be doing this visibility crap that we do.
Thank you for the $20 from Darth Willow. Most of my news consumption is in anticipation of a few obituaries I very much want to see. I understand. I understand.
We're all cheering on a blood clot, you know? You go, little guy. You can do it.
The little blood clot that could.
I was gonna say that. Perfect. That's I love that you did the Thomas the Train thing. It's coming full circle. Yeah.
There we go. I was disappointed I didn't get an opportunity to use it today. We didn't have
I know.
enough contentious calls like that.
Terrible. Thank you for the 10 Australian from Cliff, who says normally would be team justice for Dr. Softhole, but this time I want to hear Jack defend. Also, you two are both faves, so it's hard to decide. So hashtag team totally not obsessed with dragons. Well, that's a null vote. That's none of the three of us here. You can't. Sorry.
Yeah, and it's a negative. Not obsessed with it. Like, I don't even know who this is supposed to be for.
Yeah.
Cannot discern.
Do we have to stack up how many dragons we have in our immediate vicinity? Because I think I'm up to 6.
I have one in arm's distance.
I think it would be fair if Jack got the vote.
Yeah.
See, we'll find a way to place the vote.
I might have the fewest number of dragons within arm's reach. Thank you for the incredibly generous $50 from Narcissa-800. Thank you very much. No message.
Thank you for the $5 from Jason, who says Lux's hair F and rules. What a badass. Thank you. I'm trying some new things with my hair care routine. It's not quite where I want it to be yet, but you know, it's fine.
Thank you for the $5 from JIU2093. Lily Tino is controversial to many because she was at Disney and explained transition in kid-friendly ways. I feel like she's a bad representative of trans, I'm going to say TR, trans rights. Nothing in your comment indicated that that's a bad representation of trans rights, though. Like, you should be able to explain transition in kid-friendly terms. That's a good kid, like, this. I'm confused by this comment.
Yeah, the worst thing about her is that she's a Disney adult. Like, that's all I've got against Lily Tino.
Yeah,
and you're gonna go be with Jovan.
Just weaponized levels of cringe.
Is he a Disney adult? Am I talking shit?
Oh, Jovan is a Disney adult.
Oh,
for
really?
real.
Don't tell him I said
He's
that.
the only one I'll accept.
Oh, geez. Thank you for the 10 from Nathan, who says, damn you, Lux. Love your content. You're a wonderful person, but gotta go with hashtag Riverboat Jack. Listen, I'm gonna cry, but it'll be okay. I'll get over it.
Thank you for the $5 from Joshua Everett 9887. Money for friends. Hashtag Team Lux.
Thank you. Thank you. $5 from Mira Featherbender says, y'all doing so much to keep me going day to day. Thank you both for everything. Hate to choose, but hashtag Team Jax. Maybe I shouldn't have given you that one earlier. It's going to come back to bite me.
I'm gaining on you.
It's true.
Thank you for the $5 from William Mates, 1991. Which do y'all think is stronger, Hammer Space or Rubber Hose cartoon abilities? Hashtag animation nerds, hashtag Team Lux, hashtag this is my last. I don't know what either of those are. I'm sorry.
Hammer Space, also known as Mallet Space, is an imaginary and extra-dimensional and instantly accessible storage area in fiction. So I guess it's like when a cartoon character pulls something from behind their back out of nowhere.
Okay.
What is Rubber Hose cartoon? Listen, this matters enough to me that I'm Googling it right now.
Yeah.
Rubber Hose animation was an animation style that became standardized in the American animation industry. The defining feature of the style is rubber hose limbs, arms, and sometimes legs that are typically drawn as flowing curves without articulation. So I guess it's when they're like...
Yeah, rubbery.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Hammer Space. Hammer Space is absolutely stronger.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, if you had that in real life, it would be the most OP thing in existence. So you don't like somebody, you just yoink them into Hammer Space. What are they going to do? Float in a void?
Just banish them forever.
Yeah, you just have a portable shadow realm instantly accessible to you.
True.
I think this one's you.
$5 from BB Bunny says, I called in a little bit ago with Lux and Josie about anxiety in the bathrooms. It is getting better, and I just wanted to let y'all know. That's good. I'm glad. And it's like, if I didn't live in a state with protections for trans people, I probably would also be pretty anxious about it. So yeah, I'm glad that you're able to overcome that.
Thank you for the $20 from Narcissa-800. Come on, this has been explained to Guy, and he persists in passive-aggressive hate. Don't fall for this. The only thing I have to say about Guy is that I don't know what his contention was other than maybe weaponized ignorance. Like that, like he wasn't even willing to say what he was confused about. So I'm like,
Yeah.
there's not much for us to grab onto for that call until like he's able to articulate something. And I
Yeah.
do hope he does articulate something at some point, because then we can at least argue with it, or whatever, we can interact with it. But if we're being given nothing, we can't argue.
If his biggest thing is I don't care, then I'm like, okay, honestly, that feels like a blessing to me. Like I don't know what to tell you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for $5 from BB Bunny. Thank you again, who says, if we don't live our truth, we are lying to ourselves. So who's the actual liar here? And thou shalt not lie isn't in the 10 Commandments anyways. Just saying. That's true. Listen. Yeah, is it worse to lie to yourself or to lie to other people? Philosophical. Big brain.
What if trans rights were on that second tablet that Moses whoopsie daisied and broke?
Oh.
Makes you think.
We'll never know.
Thank you. Sorry, that was really stupid.
It was a good one though.
I'm sorry. Thank you for the $5 from Joshua Everett 9887. Cons unironically cheered for Homelander before realizing he was supposed to be the villain, while one of many for 3 seasons. Team Lux. Did conservatives really not realize from season 1 that Homelander was the bad guy? It took them 3 seasons of that show,
which is crazy. I don't know anything about it, but yeah, go ahead, Arden.
I think it wasn't so much that they like didn't realize he was supposed to be the villain. I think it was more of like a Thanos was right situation where they're like Homelander's actually based kind of mentality. They were like, I think they realized he was the villain, but and like an allegory for Trump, and we're trying to be like, well, I worship everything Trump does, so therefore I have to worship the characterized villain of Trump as well. It's more of a
in that way where they're like, yeah, we're bad guys. What are you gonna do about it? Like there is a little bit of that, I think, going on with the. I just saw somebody who was like, I think we should kill all Muslims, and I was like, oh, that's just genocide, and then he was like, yeah, of course it is, and I'm like, oh, okay, so you're just a sociopath. Cool, great, good to know. Like the fact that we live in a country with these people is a nightmare situation. This is what I mean. I would rather have people who are like, I don't care, versus I want to kill all Muslims. Like, that's crazy. Also, take that out of context and I'll kill you.
Oh, God. Sorry, I just saw somebody in the chat. I literally worked with a dude who bitched about them turning Homelander evil like halfway through season 2.
That's so funny.
That's like after he vaporized like an entire like crowd of people. like, God. Okay, all right.
Yeah. These people also pro-Viltrumite? Probably.
Jesus. Thank you for the $5 from Nethercat. L, you are part of the trans community no matter what some gatekeeper with internalized transphobia says. Hashtag team tough choice. Hashtag you both rock. Hashtag team Jack.
Indeed.
Hell yeah.
Thank you for the $10 from SJL, who says, maybe someday we'll have addressable tattoos that we can change at will. Then someone will hack them or will require a subscription to not play ads. Hashtag Lux. Does that fit the hashtag rule? Listen, you have to let God decide.
I'm sorry, I just have to say tattoos that play ads actually sounds like a dystopian future that I've never considered before. And I'm like, no, that's 100% going to happen. Subscription-based tattoos that still play ads. I'm going to fucking Minecraft myself.
Though the technology that would make like ads play on your skin does sound cool as hell. Like that technology.
Can I watch Invincible on my tattooed arm? Like that would be cool. I would like that. Much better than having to carry around a fucking thing.
Thank you for the £5 from Barbara Barrett 07. We are stronger together. Strength and diversity. Hashtag Team Lux. Too true.
Hell yeah. $9.99 from Lena Langton, who says, called, but apparently my call failed. Anyway, NALC Branch 82 just unanimously voted that the federal government denying us trans care is unacceptable and will be lobbying to get our health care back.
Hell
What is the
yeah.
NALC?
Hell
know this.
yeah.
National Association of Letter Carriers. Oh, fuck. Okay, cool. Hey, you know
Let's
what?
go.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's a powerful union. Cool.
Thank you for the $5 New Zealand from Christina Hankey NZ. Elannar, for a common law case to apply ratio descendi, the facts of the case have to be the same. Otherwise, it is persuasive. Obiter dicta. Hashtag Team Lux.
Cool. I don't know any of this shit.
Me neither.
I'm about to go back to school for electrical engineering, not for fucking case law.
Well, that's cool.
Although I did just watch A Few Good Men, which is a really great movie and kind of explains some of this stuff, that it's like, it doesn't matter what's true, it matters what you can argue. Also, I'm sorry, my internet is spazzing out right now. I don't know what the deal is.
Well, A Few Good Men is basically a law degree, so
it is, exactly.
I think you're good. You can practice
2.5 hours.
You can practice law in Florida now.
True. Yeah. Thank you for $5 from Just Wrench It Jax, who with the hashtag Team Lux. Thank you.
Whew, you're running away with it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the $5 from Joshua Everett 9887. Well, I really enjoy the nerdy First Amendment stare decisis conversations. Hashtag Team Lux. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I wonder if part of my issue is just like you, a religious person, coming to talk to me about any facts, about any factual situation. I'm like, I struggle a little bit with like taking what they say seriously about any other topic if I know that about them. You know what I mean?
I do know. Thank you for the $5 dono from Intellectual Talks. I went to a family doctor. My high
in a week after the first time I let her have Monster. Hashtag Team Arden because I'm a rebel. Oh, that's hilarious. That's funny. I can't do Monster. I would die. My chest would explode.
I need it to live.
Yeah.
Thank you for the $10 Canadian from 1234 HDXY. I was Marcus. Cannot express how much I appreciate this show and the line in general. Hashtag Team Lux. Yay, Marcus.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that having some representation, makes things a little easier for folks. So
yeah.
Thank you for $5 from Bramley, who says, I got a warning at work in part for not using AI. Hashtag team whoever is losing.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's like, use it to whatever extent your work requires it, and then do as much of it by hand as you can. And I just mean like, show your work separately to double check it. You got to double check it because it'll get you.
Yeah, it'll like, God, I have a whole like segment for my own show prepped about like AI.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the crazy things, I found this article from the BBC from last year. Largest study of its kind shows AI assistants misrepresent news content 45% of the time, regardless of language or where they're operating. So again, just it's not great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had it, I asked it because we on my podcast that I do with a couple of my friends at the Gayfesh YouTube channel where we talk about movies, we're watching Rob Reiner movies. I love Gayfesh. We're watching Rob Reiner movies and talking about them on the podcast. So we did A Few Good Men and then The Bucket List. And I Googled about The Bucket List. I was like, did they actually do any of this stuff? Like, did they actually go skydiving? And the first AI result said, yes, they did go skydiving. And I was like, wait, really? And then I Googled it again in different words or something, and it was like, no, it was a green screen. And I'm like, you just lied to me. You just straight up lied to me that they actually went skydiving. I was like, that would have been cool if they had, but whatever. I guess they would have had a heart attack or something, and you don't want your A-list actors to die with a heart attack while you're trying to film a skydiving scene.
Generally frowned upon.
Yeah, generally.
Thank you for the $10 from Anonymous 11. Actual therapist here. Conversion therapy is clinically a form of child abuse. That's like saying severe verbal and emotional abuse from parents is free speech. Agreed.
Arden, did somebody's super get missed? Intellectual Talks, perhaps, got a super chat miss.
Yeah, read the next
okay.
one. I'll look around for it.
All good. $20 from Hamel Lewis. Thank you for your $20. No comment. Appreciate that. So you wasted an opportunity for a vote. Damn.
You could have been supporting me.
Nothing's
true.
coming up when I search it, but I see somebody responding to them. And no, yeah, we read this one. It was, I went to a family doctor for my high fever, and she asked me when I had a period.
Yeah, we did that one.
I read that.
You might be on a delay or expecting it came sooner. I don't know, but that's the only one I see from you, and we read that one. So let me know if there's
We're doing our
another
best,
one.
everybody. Thank you for $4.99 from Anonymous. Good name. Says, according to CBS, the conversation therapy law, I know you meant conversion therapy law, only affects amendment rights of licensed therapists and counselors. Yeah, I mean, I was talking to Jimmy, and he basically suggested that it had nothing to do with actual therapists. So I don't know if that's like CBS is incorrect or Jimmy's analysis was incorrect. If I'm being honest with you, I did not read up about it, so I can make no corrections.
Yeah, my understanding is that it is specifically about conversion talk therapy. But yeah. Thank you for the $5 from Beakers Squeakers. Sorry I missed the show today. I just too ate up about hashtag Team Dr. Ben being gone forever and ever. Anyway, here's $5. Sorry if there's tears on it. Damn, wrenching our heartstrings. But Dr. Ben's going to be back next week.
Yeah. He's switching to a guest role. He'll still be here sometimes. You're just not going to consistently get him 2 to 3 times a month, all right? It's okay. Everything's okay. Thank you so much. $5 from the jazziest dog. You know, I'm a shimp ride or die. Hashtag Team Jack. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Shimp together strong. Thank you for the $10 from Brutus Magnuson 315. Conservatives also got mad at System of a Down for going woke. System of a Down.
Wow, and you had like the Armenians who have been making anti-war music since I was a literal child. That's crazy. It's like when people are like Rage Against the Machine, you know, when they're like, how could you, or whatever. And it's like, what do you think the name of the band is about? Do you think it's like, do you think Fuck You, I Won't Do What You Tell Me is like, I won't do what you tell me, Mom? Like, okay.
Yeah, those who joined forces also burn crosses. That was a political to you? No? Okay.
No. Anyway, thanks for $5 from Lidity, who says, hi, my name is Lidity, a trans woman. I would like to say that all transphobes make the same arguments. Thank you for everything you both are doing. Legitimately, I don't think there's a new thing they could possibly say at this point. Which makes it really easy to hone your arguments, because then you're just like, I know what you're going to do one of 5 things.
I mean, I would frankly be very interested in any kind of like new argument.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they're going to be able to come up with one. Thank you for the $10 Canadian from Where is Waldo? Anyone else hear about Alberta's conservatives using the notwithstanding clause to bypass human rights and attack trans people? Hashtag worst province. Hashtag Team Jack. I did hear about that. Also heard that there was like a movement among like First Nations people to try and like hold back that kind of tide of Alberta separatism and whatnot. That whole nonsense.
All right. That is game up. Lux is the winner, which means Team Jack has to now defend Monster Energy makes you trans. Jack, are you ready?
Just 1 second.
Okay. Yeah. Juice up.
Okay.
All right. Charging up the clock.
Yep.
In 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay. So back in the days of Joseph Robinette Biden, many of you may have heard rumors that there were going to be feminization camps, okay? Where Joe Biden would sweep across the country, feminizing everyone. to the left, to the right, doesn't matter. Everyone gets feminized. Femboys, ultra fem cis women. We're talking fem all over the place, okay? You get a fem, and you get a fem, and you get a fem. And the question really was, what were the feminization camps? Well, we look around, we don't see them. They aren't being built anywhere. You aren't being brought to some kind of pink facility to be feminized. However, in every gas station in this country, in every supermarket, in every aisle that holds caffeinated beverages, you find Monster. Okay? And I'm not saying definitively that there was a secret CIA program to put estrogen and the various HRT supplements into the Monster Energy drinks. But I'm also not saying that there wasn't a mass movement to put testosterone into other flavors of Monster Energy drink. What I am saying here is that the feminization camps were always a misdirect. The real source of the feminization camps, the trans camps, it was here all along. It was sitting next to us in American aisles of supermarkets. It was among us the entire time, being guzzled and fueling your workday. That's how Joe Biden won.
It's true.
I didn't.
Transgender
for everyone.
Yep.
I don't drink Monster anymore, but I did when I was a teenager. So I see where it happened. It happened, back in the day.
And you know what? When was Joe Biden a senator?
Back in the day. Exactly.
Back in the day. He's been a senator as long as almost every single one of the people watching has been alive. This has been the long game, folks. Wasn't just when he was president. It accelerated. That's why you're seeing more and more trans people now.
Yeah, it's all Joe Biden's fault. Exactly.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I just have to say it's crazy how often when you point out something wrong with Trump, people go like, well, I bet you loved it when Biden did it. And like people don't know how to respond when you're like, I also don't like Biden. Like they don't know what to do with themselves.
Yeah. No, I also didn't like it when Joe Biden was endorsing like genocidal actions on the other side of the planet. I didn't care for that. Also don't care for it under Donald Trump. Think it's bad.
Think it's bad. Also, he's not the current leader of the free world. Like Biden, no longer in charge of anything. So what does it matter what he does or did or didn't do? Not relevant right this moment, I don't think. I mean, obviously how we got to where we are is a point of relevancy, but yeah.
Indeed.
Speaking of politics, did you know that right after this show, and we're going to eat up some time for another minute and a half or so, right after this show is the Calling It Now political talk show on Jimmy Snow and The Line, where I'm going to be co-hosting with Jovan.
Oh my God.
I know, it's crazy. All of you who love the Jalux combination, that's the name that we've settled on, I guess. I will be there. I was going to say we'll be here, we'll be queer, but I started by saying we'll be there, and that kind of fucked it up. So we'll be there. We have hair. And we'll be live taking calls, hopefully talking to some Republicans or conservatives or MAGA, having those discussions. Jovan really wants to talk about Iran today. So, we're getting some extra Lux, and I will be attempting to produce a show that I've never produced before, with basically no prep. So it's going to be a fun time. I hope everybody joins us. Just stick around in the chat. It should just kind of send you automatically over. If it doesn't, there's a little thing that pops up at the top and you can click. It says go now over to the Calling It Now show. So yeah, it's going to be fun. What have you got coming up this next week, Riverboat Jack?
I've got possibly a show tonight. I'm not going to be doing a show tomorrow because it's my birthday, my HRT anniversary.
Oh, your the other birthday. Okay.
Yeah, the other kind of birthday.
Rebirthday.
Rebirthday, yes. And but also exciting news. My partner's like trans femme lingerie line. We got the next like colors and styles are in the works. Just saw the design for it today. It's super cool. And so yeah, imageneolivia.com. Go check that out if that sounds interesting. I don't know.
Hell yeah.
But that's kind of what's going on. I've been going nonstop on Iran. Probably going to talk about Iran at some point and all that. But yeah.
Nice. Well, that's it for our show. Join us for Calling It Now next. Don't forget to check out our Patreon, patreon.com/calltheline, where you can support us, help us as we work toward expanding the line and eventually doing a really big in-person convention. You get your name on the list over here of our patron supporters and access to secret stuff and access to early stuff and everything. So thank you for your support. We appreciate you.